Stupid people should wear signs, neon bright, so we can find a way to dodge their tangled mess, avoid their chaos more, say less. Wear a sign, wear a sign. Save me from your twisted line. Wear a sign, wear a sign. Nada, nada, don't waste your time. Politicians dance and spin, blatant lies with a practiced grin. Blame the moon, blame the stars, blame the traffic or faulty cars. You think they're 6, not 35, playing games to stay alive. Wear a sign, wear a sign. Save me from your twisted line. Wear a sign, wear a sign. Nada, nada, don't waste your time. Celebrities with tails so tall, lost my yacht, it's so small. It's hard being rich, don't you see? You're living in your fantasy.
Marvin Devine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Welcome back, folks. Thursday, November 6th, 2025. November 6th. Here on the third rock of the sun, things keep happening. The world keeps spinning. Events keep occurring. Life continues. Life ends. Life keeps marching. The passing of Vice President Dick Cheney on Election Day, November 4th, a significant event. Flags currently flying at half-mast at official buildings across the United States and many veteran service organizations. Former Vice President was a Wyoming congressman and later Secretary of Defense during the Gulf War. He sent me off to war. And then Vice President, famously under George Walker Bush, arguably the most powerful and influential vice president in the entire history of the United States. He's passed away at the age of 84. His health had been horrible for decades. He'd had 5 heart operations. He'd had quadruple bypass operations and eventually had a heart transplant 13 years ago at the age of 84. Well, folks, here it's time for your daily dose, your daily injection, your prevention, your preventive measure, your insurance against disinformation, misinformation, and outright lies, propaganda, hysteria, hyperbole, and just plain emotional nonsense that comes at you from around the world with an objective look at today's news and commentary and analysis coming your way right now. I just realized I need a neat little teaser video that when I say that, boom, we play it, and then I start the news. Wouldn't that be cool? I had to work on that. That just came to me. Well, Siaklis will get his 100th test match in France, of all places, taking place this weekend. But let's get to the big news. The pretend party, the party that really isn't a party in any way whatsoever, party that simply fires everybody, including now former impeached justice from the Western Cape High Court, John Schlope, has been sacked by the MK party, the party that just can't get its crap together. This is not a party so much as it is a vanity project, ladies and gentlemen. Zuma suspends Schlope over unilateral leadership changes in Parliament. MK leader Jacob Zuma suspended the membership of former Western Cape Judge President John Schlope, as well as removing him as head of the Parliamentary Caucus. This follows Schlope's unilateral suspension of Colleen Makubela as the party's chief whip, replacing her with former Finance Minister Des Van Rooyen. Look at that. A collection of losers. Schlope, Makubele, and Van Rooyen. The sequence of events began early this week when Schlope, who was also the first deputy president, without apparent consultation, removed her from parliamentary chief whip and appointed Van Rooyen. The party reacted by reversing the appointment and suspending him. Zuma is believed to have known about Schlope's decision to change leadership only when he returned for a trip to Burkina Faso. Well, well, well. The MK party is more a joke than it is actual political party. Former President Jacob Zuma's MK party has suspended its deputy president and leader. Well, now he's been removed from the party. Not just suspended, but removed from the party. It's just a joke. It's just a joke, folks. A joke. A joke. A joke. A joke. It's a sick joke on South Africans. And all the people who glom onto that party are glomming onto it for party politics, identity politics, and race politics. Nothing more, nothing more, nothing more. Well, politicians and senior members of the South African Police Service being implicated in the CAT's $360 million tender to the police. Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, IDAC head Andrea Johnson says they're investigating allegations that politicians and SAP's high-ranking officials may be involved in the alleged unlawful awarding of SAP's tender to Vusi Muzi Kat Mdlatla. Wow. So now we have senior officials that are being implicated. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a bigger scandal than anything we've ever seen, what is happening in South Africa. And of course, there are lots of scandals out there. And while this scandal is being played out in the press every single day, guess who gets to escape unscathed? The man who smuggled $580,000 into South Africa in violation of customs, in violation of taxation authorities, and buried that money in a sofa. And then perverted the means of justice by using the protection services to collude with Namibian forces to extradite people illegally and then purportedly torture them to gain information about where the money was taken to. $580,000. This should lead to the downfall of a president. Whomever did that, it was his money, it was his ranch, it was his responsibility, and according to testimony, he later became aware of it, and therefore he should resign from office. But that distraction is not going to be in attention of the public because the corrupt parliament determined that he hadn't violated any ethics canons of the parliament, which is ludicrous. He's a member of parliament. He's responsible for these crimes, and yet he remains president of South Africa. Meanwhile, we're hearing about the corrupt police. Very much corrupt. 1 million in, speaking of corruption, 1 million in school funds embezzled to pay for booze. Yes. Ulwazi Senior Secondary's principal, Michaele Makalema, is accused of spending $1 million in school operational funds on luxury items, including alcohol and meals at upmarket restaurants over a period of 16 months. The Democratic Alliance picketed at the offices of the Eastern Cape Education Department and handed over a memorandum demanding Makalema's immediate dismissal. The department was placed her on precautionary suspension pending investigation. Wow. It's a no-fee school, one of the top-performing schools in the province. Apparently, the person in charge of it has been using money not entitled to. Ladies and gentlemen, Eastern Cape of South Africa is a disaster area. It should be declared such. It should be removed from South Africa and put under international stewardship, much like the United Nations mandates for German Southwest Africa and other former colonial powers. Eastern Cape cannot be managed by the government of South Africa, and therefore it should simply be excised and treated as international territory under the stewardship of a third party, because clearly the government of South Africa can do nothing to improve the lives of the people in the Eastern Cape. Pirates board a tanker with fuel bound for South Africa. Why is fuel being bound for South Africa? Didn't South Africa once have 4 refineries? Oh, wait, they all closed except one, which closed and then reopened. Mad Max, another South African mayor. No idea what that is. What is this? Durban-born Benita Cottonor elected as Sky Valley mayor. Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. Who cares? Pirates have taken over ship necessary because South Africa can't refine its own petroleum products. Why? Because the ANC's incompetence, its broad-based black economic empowerment, racist laws, the departure of the technicians and engineers who have the talent and skill but have the wrong skin color, forced to go abroad to feed their families. This is why these businesses, plus government regulating the price of fuel, communist imposition of price regulation, price controls. An oil tanker was boarded by suspected pirates in the ocean to the east of the Somali coast, the most serious in a string of recent incidents. The attackers were operating from a nearby mothership and boarded the Hellas Aphrodite oil tanker 700 miles east of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Embraer Intelligence says there have been attempted attacks on other vessels. The ship's manager, Lasco Marine Management, confirmed a security incident. He said the ship was carrying petrol to South Africa from India. So if India is shipping petroleum products to South Africa, since it's not a petroleum producer, is it taking refined Russian petroleum? So is South Africa now in violation of international sanctions against Russia for its rogue war against Ukraine by buying this oil? Is that what's happening? Is South Africa, which is already in violation of United Nations sanctions by shipping war material to warlords in Benghazi, South Africa already under the pump should be sanctioned for its actions in allowing that to happen? Why is South Africa now buying likely Russian oil funneled through India? Wow. Thank you to the pirates who've now exposed this potential additional violation of international standards and norms. While the ANC and Durko and Ronnie Lamola talk about international norms and dismiss arrogantly the United States law that covers refugees and insult the United States on a daily basis and falsely claim that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, while they do that, they are surreptitiously allowing defense war material to be shipped to warlords to murder people in Benghazi in violation of United Nations sanctions. And now they're purchasing oil from India, not an oil producer. What is this oil they're getting from India? What is this oil? Is it Russian oil, thereby violating international sanctions against Russia? Who is the rogue actor here? Politicians in South Africa like to say America is a rogue actor, but every time we turn around, we find the government of South Africa committing international offenses in violation of international norms that they pretend are so important. Wow. There's a video of that. I'm waiting for a response from somebody very important here, folks. So I'm looking to see if I got it. No, that's not what it was. Am I aware of what? Hang on. Hang on. Sorry, folks, that was important. So what we have happening here, I'm just going to break from the news for just a moment and talk about what I just did with there. So I'm getting sent screenshots from people who are whining about the new process for the U.S. refugee program, entitled Whiny Little Comments. And so let me address that very quickly. Now we have to do it all over again. It's not fair. You know what? Life's not fair. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't bitch about it. All right? It's very simple. I've explained this already in a video on the 4th of November and did on my live stream after I came back from working an 18-hour day, did a live stream specifically to talk about this program for people. And whiny little bitches don't bother to watch my programming and then spread misinformation. I'm getting tired of it. You know what? Don't listen to these people in these WhatsApp groups. Ignore them. Read the website. You don't even have to listen to me. You don't have to pay any attention to me. Go read the website for yourself. It's in English. It's not complicated, and you don't have to listen to me. But go there. I'm getting tired of these people. These entitled, whiny people complaining about things. I've explained why the government's doing this. I've also explained to people that there were problems with the site that they're aware of, and also gave people advice on how they can avoid some of these problems in another video. But people still insist on running. Well, of course it's going to run slow because of the overwhelming interest in it. Again, Crispin Puri from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation lies to the public saying there's been a low uptake in this program. Well, he's full of it. Where does he get the information from? The server is getting overwhelmed by the number of requests and responses. All right? So, calm down, and I will explain once again right now, not my audience, you guys aren't the ones freaking out, but this whiny baby bullshit going on. Let me address this very quickly here. All right, so, once again, the program from the very beginning has been haphazard in my assessment. I said so. From February 10th onwards, I've said so. It was opaque, it was unclear, it was uninformative, it was unhelpful, and it left people concerned, worried, not knowing. They left no ability to contact anybody. They had no resources to respond to emails or to telephone calls. They have limited resources. They're doing this on shoestring budgets. Instead of being impressed that during a government shutdown of over 30 days, they took resources and created a questionnaire to streamline the process. Now, I understand people who submitted a statement of interest in May or June or July, or who did a PRM email and have never heard anything and now will not get called. I have warned you. I have cautioned you. Do the questionnaire. If you have not been contacted, if you've been contacted, don't do it because you're going to jeopardize your existing case if you have a case. If you've never been contacted and you sent something in, they are making an effort to ensure that no one slips through the cracks. It's not just a case of thousands and thousands of people piled up. There's a case that maybe people slip through the cracks because they handled the cases improperly or poorly, I should say. So instead of whining about it, fill the questionnaire out or shut up and stay in the free state. Done and dusted, finishing Clark. Does that hurt feelings? Are people going to leave because I said that? Well, then you're whiny crybabies and you have no business coming to this country. Oh, but we just want to work. We don't care if you want to work. This isn't a work release program. This is not a work employment program. This is not a scheme to bring people. We don't need workers who come over here for that reason. This is a gift for those who are suffering from unjust racial persecution. You are being welcomed with open arms to come to this country and being resettled here where you're safe. Done and dusted. All right? So, enough of the whining, enough of the crying, enough of the belly aching, enough of the moaning. It's not a very becoming look for South Africans. And it's a very unbecoming look for Afrikaners and Boers who are supposed to be self-sufficient and full of self-bestuur. This is more like self-pity. More like self-pity. I've seen in groups last night where I'm giving up, I'm not doing it anymore. Because you can't fill a questionnaire out? Well, then clearly you didn't want to come here because your life is in jeopardy, because you're suffering from unjust race. You're looking for destination shopping. You know what? I recommend you go to Australia. Enjoy that. Go to Australia if you want a destination shop. Again, my apologies for the intrusion in the news broadcast to deal with that, but it's becoming a very prevalent thing. It's a very bad look for South Africans, a very bad look. Yes, they think they're going on holiday or they're immigrating. It's not immigration. And this is in part a consequence of the media in South Africa, but not entirely. It's also a consequence of the people themselves who are doing this. Rhino Girl says, 100%, it makes me sick and furious. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of all of this, we're going to see a few tens of thousands of South Africans come over here, and we're going to see a lasting image of privileged, whiny South Africans. Yeah, that's how it's going to come off. I'm not accusing people of that, but that's how it's going to come off. That is how South Africans are going to look after this. Yep. And it'll be white South Africans. They won't blame colored South Africans. They won't blame Indian South Africans. They may not even blame English-speaking South Africans. It'll be the Afrikaners who bear the bite for this. Yep. It'll be the Afrikaners who bear the bite for this. Our orangutan juice, I'm grateful for the new questionnaire. I filled in and entered everything from the start and not got a contact, so it feels like a second chance, safety, and salvation. Orangutan juice, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. Instead of people looking at this as a positive, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I gotta fill another form. I had a similar situation at the voting. I'll get back to the news in a moment. I had a similar situation at the voting. I had a gentleman that came to me with a spoiled ballot, his wife's ballot. His wife was with him. She was very quiet. It turns out I believe she's got a concern there. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But under the law, she's allowed to vote, even if she's not competent. She's allowed to vote. So I didn't know that was the case, but they were sitting down, they said they'd see me. So they had to wait for about 3 minutes while I finished another person who was doing a provisional ballot because of some sort of mess up. So I did the person's provisional ballot. There are several steps in that, and you have to do all of them to make sure everything's done correctly or the ballot will not be counted. And it's on me to ensure that it's done properly so that that person is a registered voter, their vote will get counted. Otherwise, my mistake will deny them their vote. So that's important for me to focus on. They soiled a ballot because they made a mistake. They circled 2 in a block where you can only put 1, the machine wouldn't accept it because they double voted. You can't do that. So their mistake. So they sat down for approximately 4 minutes. I came over to them and I said, how can I help you? They got a spoil ballot. I said, okay, let me do the spoil ballot. And they saw me enter it in the log so that no one can use the ballot. So, then it gets put in a file, it gets spoiled and marked so that the machine won't read it permanently and people can see that. Then I took them back and said, Miss So-and-so can get her ballot now. So they hand her the ballot. I turn to walk back to my judge's station, and I turn to look over my shoulder, and the man takes the ballot out of her hand, he takes it in his hand, and they walk towards the voting area. I said, sir, where are you going? I'm going to go revote. I said, your wife is voting. Yes, but I'm assisting her. You can't do that. If you need to assist your wife, if she's physically or mentally incapacitated or unable to do the ballot because of a language barrier, then you must do an assisted ballot. It's the same ballot, but we have to record it so there's a record of it so no one accuses anyone of committing electoral fraud. And he goes, what is that? I said, well, you can't go back in there and stand over your wife or sit down with your wife and fill out the ballot for her. That's not allowed. It's against the law. I can't do that. And I did it very patiently, very calmly. And I said, please come sit down over here. Just take a minute to fill out the form. So I had his wife sit down. I had him sit down. Or he didn't sit down. I offered him a seat. He wouldn't sit down. And then I said, okay, we have to fill out this form. It's a 1-page form. You have to fill in 4 lines. You have to put in the name of the voter, their address, then the name of or the reason why they need help, in this case, mental dementia. And then the third thing is you have to put down the person that will be assisting and their address. And then they vote right there in privacy so the judge can observe that no one else is around. But he didn't want to do that. He got bent out of shape and left. But I understand. If you have a spouse that's going through that, it must be a very traumatic situation, very difficult, and you get very frustrated and short-tempered with things. But it's the same situation. The person decided to make themselves upset. I didn't do anything that person upset. I was very polite. But I'll tell you what, I was very angry after he left. Very angry because it's very disrespectful and very rude. But I'm trying to be understanding that he's going through something. But in the end, she didn't get to vote. But let's be honest, she wasn't going to vote anyway. He was going to vote for her. But I mean, it's the same with this refugee program. The program has been streamlined. The rules have changed. If you want to stay in contention, then you acquire the questionnaire and you do it. It's like a sports team. If your hooker goes down, if Bongi Banami can't play because he's got a twisted ankle, you got to do something about it. Why are people this way? To be allowed to live in the USA, a first world country, safe country for free. These people who dare to moan should stay. Yeah, I agree. They should stay. Stay in the Free State. Stay in Mpumalanga. All right, back to the news. That was a brief interlude there. Sorry about that, folks, but it was necessary. All right, let me see if I got a response on that. I'm also waiting for this other one. Yeah, no response on that. Okay. Oh, crap. I'm waiting for this important one. Too many things going on. I finally got some rest last night, folks. I got about 6, almost 8 hours, 7 hours of uninterrupted rest. That hasn't happened in a while. It tells you how knackered I was. That's how knackered I was. Well, Vodacom has reached a settlement with their employee who shouldn't get anything because his intellectual property was their intellectual property, but still he gets a settlement here. In a landmark resolution that brings closure to nearly 2 decades of legal battles, Vodacom has settled its contentious dispute with Kenneth Nkosana Maketa over the widely popular Please Call Me feature. The case revolved around his mechanism that was put in use by Vodacom, which he has no right to whatsoever. Yep. Anyway, the case is settled. The details are not being released. Who knows? He was being held accountable for the legal cost because he lost. 17 South Africans are trapped in the Ukraine after being lured there to join mercenary forces. What? The men aged 20 to 39, so almost none of them were alive during apartheid, sent a distress call for assistance to return home. They're from KZN, except for one who's from the Eastern Cape. They were allegedly lured to join mercenary forces involved in the Ukraine war. Under the Foreign Military Assistance Act of 1998, it's illegal for South African citizens and entities to offer or provide military assistance to foreign governments or participate in armies of foreign governments unless authorized by the South African government. Wow. Gee, KZN, Eastern Cape. I bet there's not a lot of de Klerks and Fundamavas in that group. Limpopo pig farm murders. Well, that's still taking place. Rifle bullet found in murdered woman's neck. Ouch. A postmortem revealed that one of the 2 women murdered and dumped in Limpopo pigsty had a 303 lodged in her neck. State witness Rudolph Adrian DeVette admitted to firing several shots with a 303 on the night of killings, alongside pig farmer Zachariah Olivier. But DeVette has turned state's evidence, as most weasels do, against his co-accused, so the convictions are likely to be a fait accompli. Couple of op-eds that appear in South African media, and I like both of them. This one's fantastic. I'm going to try to read this one to you guys in its entirety. Give me a moment here. I want to bring it up here. Hang on a second. That's not what I want. There we go. That's what I want. All right. So this one appears in the Times Live, and this one's about BEE. So I want to read this one to you and then comment on it as we go. So here it is. The right of reply. J.J. Tabane's BEE confusion, twisting the DA's people first stance into a racism, is tired. In other words, this person is tired of hearing the racial narrative. It is from Baxoli Nodada, who is a member of the Democratic Alliance. Commentator Onkopotsi J.J. Tabane has wrongly lashed out at the Democratic Alliance, saying that it is ignoring South Africa's historical truth by calling for a move away from BEE towards a focus on economic inclusion, when it is the very historical and present truths that are behind the Democratic Alliance's move. In doing so, Tabane is guilty of ignoring a major historical truth that many beyond the DA have observed, that after 30 years of one or another variety of BEE, unemployment is higher than ever, and poverty is everywhere to be seen. This is because BEE was designed as a program to enrich a politically connected elite and has failed to empower ordinary South Africans who are struggling to make a living and keep hunger and poverty at bay, something I've been saying year after year. To make this argument, Tabane cites statistics that show how black South Africans remain marginalized and excluded. This is tragically the case after 3 decades of ANC rule, something I've also been saying. But he does not draw the obvious conclusion. It is under the world's most far-reaching race-based empowerment regime that this inequality has persisted and in many ways worsened. I've also told you this. Proposing to continue with the failed policy, which has not empowered anyone but a tiny elite, does not make sense. Tabane should be asking himself what should be done differently to achieve a better life for all South Africans. But he's oddly not interested in answering the question. It's not odd. He's an ANC shill. That's why he's doing it. Instead, he parrots ANC dogma, which holds that only BEE can create a thriving, inclusive economy, even if all evidence suggests otherwise. It is clearly time to try something new. Indeed, indeed, indeed. The biggest game changer for country is how well its government can provide the infrastructure and services that prompt economic growth and create a safe, functional environment for citizens to thrive. Good governance means making sure that every cent of taxpayer or ratepayer money is used to maximize effect so that many citizens as possible might benefit from government services. No. I'm sorry. This is where I disappear. This is where I disagree with the DA. They're left of center. They're leftist. They're not far left, but they're leftists. No, it's not the role of government to ensure that everyone benefits from government services. It is the role of government to stay out of the private sector, to successfully regulate, to ensure a level playing field for all, not to provide services. That is not the role of government. The role of government is to be unintrusive, to allow society to function with the least intrusion whatsoever, and ensure people have recourse. That is the role of government, not that everyone benefits from government services. That is a socialist leftist idea, and that is, of course, the Democratic Alliance. This has clearly not been the case under BE, which has been a fig leaf for connected politicians and their connections to abuse state funds, buying goods and services at inflated prices and contracting politically connected businesses without the skills to deliver effectively, or even companies. While the Democratic Alliance is proposing the government place delivery to all citizens, and especially those in greatest need, front and center of its policy approach, ensuring maximum benefit for citizens. Governments, local, provincial, national, must have proper pro-poor policies that take into account poverty and unemployment. And I disagree with this here. I disagree with this entirely. The government has no right to give one group of people more attention than another. Pro-poor policies, no. Policies that benefit all South Africans, not simply exclusively the poor. This is already the case with the DA governs in metros and municipalities across the country, from Cape Town to Midvaal and Umgeni, where the DA governs the most extensive pro-poor policies, such as subsidizing water and electricity and prioritizing building infrastructure where its weakest are in place. Tabane ignores this. And once again, I part company with the Democratic Alliance. Subsidizing water and electricity means you're stealing from one person to give to someone else. That is anti-productive. Anti-productive. It undermines productivity because humans are self-interested. Again, the DA and I part company here because they're a leftist party. Even President Cyril Ramaphosa acknowledged this, telling ANC members who want to be counselors that they must learn from the DA. They expect nothing less than the highest standards of services and most efficient use of their tax and rate payments, taxpayers. The DA approach is to limit the opportunities for graft and corruption and maximize the opportunities for effective, efficient governance that uses the best and most cost-effective services available. As DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zilla put it, in South Africa, the vast majority of the unemployed are poor, and poor are black people. They get the best free basic package in the DA governments. They get the best opportunities, the best public access through transport, and various other things. Characterizing the DA as racist is a tired tactic that is disproved by the facts on the ground where the DA governs. Race baiting is the last resort of critics who can't find actual fault, or an elite that desperately wants to keep the BE policy that channels money into its bank accounts alive. It's a classic political play by those with no argument to turn to race, tribe, ethnicity as a point of division. Now that's a brilliant paragraph there. Would Tabani make race-baiting claims of respected academics and commentators such as Professor William Mervyn Gumeda or Moletsi Mbeki, who have strongly criticized BE for failing to empower? What about the millions of black voters who chose the DA and the millions who have given up on the ANC? Are they living? Well, there aren't millions of black voters for the DA. There are hundreds of thousands. Are they also living their lives through only one prism, race? Voters are tired of these cliches. They've seen through the ANC's claim to be serving their interests while an elite gets rich at their expense. They don't want more cheap rhetoric. They want government to deliver. Instead of jumping on this threadbare bandwagon, Tabani should think critically about how South Africa can move forward after 3 decades of failed policies. Baksole Nodada is the DA Deputy Chief Whip. Anyway, there you have it. So I just wanted to read that one to you guys. I hope you found that interesting. And a couple more here that I've got very quickly just to go over here. Peter Bruce writes one about the smelters in South Africa, and it's a pretty good op-ed. Peter Bruce, editor-at-large, former editor of Business Day, says government has just weeks, if not days, to save the last remnants of what was once a powerful symbol of South Africa's industrial muscle. Samancor, the chrome ore mining and smelting group, now owned by China's Baho Steel, has warned employees it cannot sustain because of electricity costs. At the start of the ANC industrial policymaking in 1994, there were more than 50 ferrochrome smelters in the country. 50 ferrochrome smelters in the country, down to your last one, I believe. Largely tied to mines owned by the same companies, but the drop-off, mainly due to relentless Eskom tariff increases, has become a rout. We hold more than 80% of global chrome reserves, and our smelting capacity once put us at the center of the world's manufacturing of stainless steel, of which ferrochrome is a core ingredient. But in the last 15 years, the smelters have closed, and that capacity has moved to Asia, mainly China, in plain sight and in direct conflict with repeated ANC policies to process our minerals here to create jobs and add value to our exports. So an entire industry may be about to breathe its last. We will continue to mine chrome, but it's increasingly being loaded into ships and unprocessed rock and exported to China. And this is what's happened under the ANC's industrial policy, because it's industrial theft is what it is. South Africa has illiterate counselors who can't even read the budgets that they approve. South Africa is teetering the edge of democratic absurdity. As the country heads towards the 2026 local government elections, we're confronted with the staggering and shameful reality. Hundreds of elected counselors entrusted with managing municipal budgets worth millions cannot read or write. It isn't a sensational claim. It comes from the Department's Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs own skills audit, which found more than 300 counselors in KwaZulu-Natal alone were functionally illiterate. And it is a typo. 300 public representatives are signing off on budgets and development plans they can't even read. This is not democracy. This is patronage. This is what happens when you take competent people and replace them with incompetent people because of their skin color. It doesn't mean there aren't competent people who have that skin color. It just means that this is patronage based on race, and it's wrong. Siya Kolisi will get his 100th test match in France at the Stade de France as the Springboks look to defend their position as the top-ranked rugby squad on the planet. Siya Kolisi will become the 9th Springbok centurion when he heads out and leads South Africa onto the pitch against France at the Stade de France Saturday. Ross Erasmus will also be hitting a milestone. He will be coaching his 50th test as a head coach. He made 6 changes to the side that defeated Japan last week. This feat for Kolisi and Erasmus adds to a string of remarkable achievements, including winning back-to-back Rugby World Cups, Rugby Championship titles, and a British and Irish Lions series. Bone Venter will come on to replace Oxen Che because of the injury. And that's going to leave a question mark in that front row. Will this French scrum prove to undo the Springboks? We shall see on Saturday. Stay tuned. Catch it Saturday evening late, South African time, 10 o'clock. It kind of sucks for South Africans. It also sucks for me because it cuts into my crab eating time. Right on Rugby Ascendant, you can catch it. Play-by-play and color commentary. Lucan Yuam is leaving the Sharks after 9 years, off to a higher paycheck, most likely, in Japan. The Sharks have confirmed that Springbok center Lucan Yuam will be leaving the franchise to join Japanese side Mitsubishi Dynaboars, bringing an end to a remarkable chapter that began in 2016. He joined the Durban-based side from the Southern Kings and quickly established himself as one of the most composed and intelligent outside centers in world rugby, renowned for his defensive organization and calm leadership. He became a cornerstone of the Sharks' backline, was appointed captain in 2020. It's been an incredible journey. The Sharks said in a statement on social media, a leader, a Springbok, a Shark through and through, with over 100 caps to his name. We say thank you to Lucan Yuam for his years of dedication, leadership, and excellence in the black and white. Lucan Yuam moves on to brighter days in Japan. Once again, the U.S. Embassy on the 4th of November issued an update to the refugee program. If you previously sent in a statement of interest on the U.S. Embassy website, filling out the Google form, or a PRM email, and you have not been contacted, which includes thousands of people, you must go and fill out this questionnaire. All right? And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I can't help you with that. You must go fill it out. And it remains the same, except now you have to give much more detailed information, which will reduce the amount of time. Now, I will comment on this additionally. I'm getting multiple reports and information from people who've been jerked around, and I think this stems from the fact that the people that are scheduling your interviews to meet with U.S. personnel are U.S. personnel who are not from South Africa, who are not familiar with it, who've been sent over on temporary duty from the State Department to process people, and they do not know geography. Someone needs to hand them a gazetteer. Someone needs to show them an atlas. Someone needs to tell them that Cape Town is not a 5-minute drive from Pretoria, that Centurion is nowhere near Cape Town, that Jeffreys Bay is not Pretoria. Durban is nowhere near Gauteng. Someone needs to teach them basic geography because it seems like they're idiots. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it outright. Someone is being an idiot. Someone needs to be in charge of this that understands what's going on. You cannot reasonably send someone a frickin' email at 6 p.m. today and tell them to be in Cape Town at 7:30 in the morning for an appointment when they live in Mpumalanga. It's impossible. You cannot reasonably expect someone to fly from Johannesburg to Cape Town for a medical exam after you made them come to Pretoria from Uppington the previous week for their interviews. Someone needs to dig their head out of their ass at the U.S. Embassy. Dig your head out of your ass. Yeah, someone had a medical in Cape Town and an interview in Pretoria. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Go to the interview, or whichever one's closer to you. Well, virtual Western Cape. Yeah, that's not very becoming true. But let me dump you in Ames, Iowa. And you give me, you start scheduling things. Tell me what you know. Okay? That's not a particularly unique American experience. This is a bureaucracy experience. This is bureaucrats. Greetings from Johannesburg, South Africa, where spring bursts with jacaranda blooms. Oh yes, here's an American from National Public Radio enjoying her time in Joburg. Frankly, Joburg is okay, but Pretoria is where the jacarandas really bloom. Far-flung postcards. Johannesburg, known to locals simply as Joburg, has long been dubbed Igoli, which means City of Gold in Zulu. The moniker comes from the gold mines that made it the wealthiest metropolis in Africa. But in spring and October, the avenues turn purple and the City of Gold becomes the City of Amethyst. You walk in a sea of violet blooms that cover the sidewalks, and a canopy of tree branches is a purple haze. Jacarandas, synonymous to Joburg's cherry blossoms at Japan, are actually an import brought to South Africa from Brazil in the 19th century. There are an estimated 50,000 jacarandas, some as old as 100, across the city. Joburg is often called one of the world's largest urban forests. It is the world's largest man-made forest. When I moved to Joburg to work as a journalist 8 years ago, having never lived in South Africa, which my parents left during apartheid, it was jacaranda season. The flowers evoked my youth of neighboring Zimbabwe, where they grow prolifically. Since leaving Zimbabwe at age 17, I've become something of a nomad, living in Asia, Australia, and Europe, and really didn't consider myself any particular nationality. When I arrived in democratic South Africa, among the jacaranda trees of my childhood for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of home. And that's lovely, Kate Bartlett. Congratulations, Kate Bartlett. I'm glad that you feel comfortable in South Africa. But calling it democratic is a stretch. It's a stretch. It's simply not true. Qatar Airways is selling off its remaining stake in Cathay Pacific. $897 million. Wonder why. State-owned Qatar Airways decided to sell its entire stake in Cathay Pacific for about $900 million, making a complete exit from Hong Kong's flagship after 8 years. They said on Wednesday the Doha-based Cathay had approached about selling its entire stake and would repurchase the shareholding through a buyback. Wow, 4% discount to share price. Qatar Airways CEO Badr Mohammed Almir said the exit reflected the company's disciplined portfolio strategy and followed a period of strong results, allowing the company to maximize investments and position itself for long-term growth. In other words, they made money on the shares and they want to profit. Well, good for you. Well, U.S. military reportedly will be establishing a military presence in Damascus at an airbase. Really? Wow. U.S. is preparing to establish a military presence and airbase in Damascus to help enable a security pact that Washington is brokering with Syria and Israel. 6 months. Six sources familiar with it told Reuters. U.S. plans for the presence in the Syrian capital, which have not been previously reported, would be a sign of Syria's strategic realignment with the U.S. following the last year of long-time leader Bashar al-Assad, an ally of Iran. Well, a military base in Syria, that would be huge. Farewell to the International Space Station, which will soon fall out of the sky and burn up over the Pacific, hopefully, or Indian Ocean. NASA confirms it will fall into the sea, and they still don't know who will be its replacement. Who? You mean what? Launched into space in 1998, the International Space Station has been much more than connected modules. It's been a home for many, a laboratory, and the first human experiment in space. For 25 years, crews from all over the world have lived up there, carrying out more than 4,000 experiments, growing the first space lettuce, studying how microgravity affects the human body, observing dark matter particles, and in the process, they learned something even more valuable: how to work together, even in most difficult conditions. $150 billion. Building and maintaining a station has cost a fortune. It's estimated to cost $150 billion, and NASA alone has invested about $3 billion per year in its operation. Many expected those billions to bring astonishing discoveries, miraculous cures, or breakthroughs would change history, but reality is different. Experiment because every cable, every routine, every mission up there was a lesson for future lunar and Martian colonies. So, when the International Space Station sinks into the Pacific, not only will tons of metal be lost, but also a symbol of what we are capable of achieving when we cooperate. Its fall will mark the end of an era and the beginning of another. We will have to decide whether we are facing a common good or just another market. Well, bye-bye, Space Station. ISS. Remember Skylab? Skylab fell in the Pacific. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the big news here in the United States is the evil, wicked witch from the West, literally from the West, from San Francisco, the toilet-stained streets of San Francisco, where people no longer eat rice-a-roni. The evil, evil Nancy Pelosi has finally announced her retirement after decades of misrule in the capital of Washington, D.C. The evil Nancy, paint my eyebrows on, Pelosi will be leaving Washington. Nancy Pelosi, the first and only female Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, who gives a crap, and one of the most powerful figures in Democratic politics, has announced she will not seek re-election. I've truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I've always honored the song of St. Francis, Lord, make an instrument of thy peace. That's why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know I will not be seeking re-election in Congress. The 85-year-old fossil said in a sweeping view that stood as a love letter to the city she's represented for nearly 40 years. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative. And we will begin a countdown for the departure of the Wicked Witch of the West. Ding dong, the witch is dead, the witch is dead, the wicked witch is dead. Yes, yeah, well, dead from Congress, not dead from life. The evil, wicked, evil Nancy Pelosi, whose biggest accomplishment in life was to burden us with the expiration of the Affordable Care Act by famously telling her constituents, or her caucus, I should say, that just vote for the bill, read it after you voted for it. And the sunset clause was included. And they hoodwinked America and the world by destroying the insurance market for health insurance, taking 20 million working Americans off of insurance, and putting 10 million criminal alien invaders onto health insurance for free at our expense. Those people were pulled off of health insurance, were then put on the public dole, and then on top of that insult to injury, we paid for 3 and 4 times of their insurance premiums for those people who used to get it from their employer, who could no longer afford it because the insurance market was jerry-rigged to ensure that pre-existing conditions didn't matter. It doesn't matter what your state of health is. You go for insurance, you must be given the health insurance. And so if you walk in the middle of chemotherapy and it's costing $4 million for care, now an insurance company has to pay that $4 million. How do they get the $4 million? They increase the premiums for everyone else by double and triple. That's why. That's why. This is her legacy, a legacy of fraudulent corruption. The woman who became massively wealthy for corrupt pay-for-play services in the House of Representatives from Visa. Yeah, there you go. Goodbye. Good riddance. Don't want to see you leave. Just let the door hit you in an ample ass on the way out. And by the way, get a better pencil to paint on your eyebrows. It's disgusting. The Federal Aviation Administration orders a 10% cut in flights at several airports as the shutdown drags on. Sean Duffy, Transportation Administration Secretary, says that we're going to have to shut down airports, shut down flights. The reductions take effect tomorrow, And this is going to be a big problem for the holiday season as Thanksgiving is around the corner. A 10% cut at a major hub like Chicago's O'Hare, where I just came back from a few weeks ago, that at O'Hare will mean fewer than 121 fewer flights. 121 fewer flights, or more than 14,500 fewer seats per day. Wow. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of frustration, a lot of angry people because of this. A lot of angry, and rightly so. The U.S. shutdown is making airlines scramble to try to work around this. U.S. airlines are scrambling on Thursday to rejigger schedules and fielding a flood of customer queries about after U.S. ordered flight cuts. And the cuts, of course, threaten the busy holiday season. Unless the government reopens, drastic plans threaten to throw holiday plans for chaos from millions of Americans traveling for Thanksgiving, marking one of the most visible ripples yet in the And so here's another fact. If this happens, which is likely to happen now because the Democrats, if they disrupt Thanksgiving season, this will be a blip in economic output. This will lead to reduced tax revenue. This will lead to reduced economic growth because that's how big a holiday Thanksgiving is for travel. It's the biggest holiday for travel in the year by air. And this will have a major impact. It will affect, and then they'll use that to say that Trump's tariffs are causing America to weaken, which is a lie. That's not the case. They'll use this, a crisis that they are formulating and fomenting by intentionally keeping the government closed. Well, but the good news, I suppose, is at the end of this, that's one less month that we wasted money, so for the most part. So a lot of things were paid for, but maybe the deficit's been reduced because we're not spending money that we don't need to. Meanwhile, after the election of the fascist Islamist in chief, the anti-Semitic, Jew-hating Zoran Mamdani, the Fire Department of New York Commissioner hands his resignation. Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker handed his resignation Wednesday morning, just a day after Zoran Mamdani was elected mayor. Tucker, a proud Jewish philanthropist and businessman, informed Mayor Eric Adams that he would step down from the job he's held for just over 12 months on December 19th. The Fire Department New York boss was concerned about Mamdani's anti-Israeli hostility, and a source noting that Tucker's support of the Jewish state does not align with the new mayor. Tucker will go back to running the private security firm TM USA, which he headed before joining Adams' administration. And here's another story on that. FDNY Commissioner Robert Tucker resigns a day after Mamdani mayor win. There you go. Kaz Daugherty may go as well. That's interesting. Interesting to say the least. An email letter to Mayor Adams sent less than 12 hours after Mamdani's win over former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, he announced his last day was the 19th of December. Wow. An Adams administration official spoke in condition of anonymity, said several other politically allied top aides to the mayor are expected to submit resignations, including Daugherty. Wow. The exodus begins for New York. Black box has been recovered from the UPS plane crash in Louisville as the death toll rises to 12. Videos show the plane's engine detaching during takeoff just before the crash. Authorities said they recovered the black boxes from Tuesday's UPS cargo plane crash in Louisville. Investigators have seen video that shows the plane's left engine detaching from the wing during takeoff. They believe they found the engine near the crash site. Several people are still missing, according to Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg. Wow. Shortly after the UPS flight 2976 was clear for takeoff, flames can be seen on the aircraft. Video shows the plane ablaze and flying at low altitude shortly before crashing into a large fireball about 5:14 p.m. The plane bound for Hawaii and laden with 38,000 gallons of fuel narrowly missed a restaurant and truck and struck an auto parts lot and petroleum recycling center. So here's what we know about it. This is what we know. Initial findings show the left wing caught fire while the plane was rolling toward takeoff and its engine fell off. Afterward, the fallen engine was left on the ground beside the runway. The plane has 3 engines, one mounted in each wing and one in the rear. The plane should have been able to take off if one engine was inoperable or even if it had fallen off, said John Cox of a Florida-based aviation consulting firm. But that may not have been possible if one of the other engines was damaged or there was other significant damage. Aviation attorney Pablo Rojas said the video suggests the plane struggled to gain altitude as the flames blazed along its left side. The plane, bound for Honolulu and fully loaded with fuel, shredded the roof of one large building before erupting in flames. Plane crashed into an area dotted with scrapyards and UPS facilities. It narrowly missed a restaurant and bar and went down not far from a Ford auto assembly plant where hundreds of people were working. Good Lord, that was close. The blaze stretched nearly a city block and destroyed much of the plane's fuselage, fire officials say. Packing Package sorting UPS's mammoth handling facility in Louisville remained shut down Wednesday. How much the crash will disrupt shipping remains to be seen. The hub, called the UPS Worldport, handles 300 flights daily and sorts more than 400,000 packages an hour. Commercial passenger flights at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport resumed Wednesday, although just one way was open initially. 400,000 packages per hour are not being sorted now. UPS is going to take a big hit for this. UPS is going to take a big hit for this. Well, GOP chiefs demand that Chief Justice John Roberts silence unruly judges who are criticizing the court over Trump cases. Two senior Republicans asked Chief Justice John Roberts on Wednesday to shut down lower federal judges who have been carping over how the courts have been handling Trump-related cases. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, the chairman of the two chambers' judiciary committees, said judges have been making anonymous statements to reporters complaining about the Trump cases and the Supreme Court's handling of them. The two lawmakers called the comments inflammatory and said they could represent violations of judges' ethics code. It does. We're deeply concerned that these public attacks on the court from sitting federal judges damage the public's faith and confidence in our judicial system. When judges call into question the legitimacy of their own branch of government, they erode faith in the institution itself. 100%. And they're wrong. The Supreme Court does need to take action. So let's take a look at the results for Zoran the Moran, the acolyte of Sadiq Khan West. So 65% of those who disapprove of Trump, as well as 8% of those who approve of him, voted for Mamdani. 33% of voters who expressed an unfavorable view of the Democratic Party, and 65% of those who had a favorable view voted for Mamdani. 46% of white voters, so once again, he is in office because of white people, not because of brown people, not because of trans people, not because of gay people, not because of Hispanics, not because of Asians, not because of Muslims, not because of Islam, because white people voted him in office. 46% of whites voted him in, and that's where he got his 50% from. 54% of non-white voters voted for him. 69% of the voters ages 44 and younger. I notice how they cook that number. Why is suddenly 44 an age you pick? Normally it's under 30, but 44 and under, 69%, including 84% of women under 30, voted for Mamdani. 80% of women under the age of 30 in New York are morons. 75% of the people who have no faith. 33% of the Jewish vote. 1/3 of Jews voted for an anti-Semitic, Jew-hating, Israel-hating Islamic fanatic. 33%. There's some stupid Jews out there, too. 30% of the Catholics, stupid Catholics, and 42% of those identifying as Protestant. Well, there's a lot of dumb Protestants, too. 82% of the non-straight white or non-straight vote. Does that mean gay vote? Bipolar, bisexual, and whatever, LGBTQ, LMNOP. 82% of votes cast by people who have been in New York for the past 10 years or less. Yeah, so 82% of the votes from people who aren't even New Yorkers. They're not even New Yorkers. They've come to New York in the last 10 years. Yep. 65% of first-time voters. Yep. That's who voted for Mamdani the moron. Well, the president of Heritage says, I made a mistake, but he was resisting the call to step down for supporting Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes' white supremacy, anti-Semitic screed. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts needs to go. Told staffers Wednesday they made a mistake with a much criticized video defending Tucker Carlson. He wants to stay and clean up what he calls the mess. I made a mistake and I let you down. I let down this institution. I'm sorry for that. No, unacceptable. You've tarnished the Heritage Foundation's reputation. You must go, Kevin Roberts. You must go. Heritage Foundation, if you need a reliable, honest person who doesn't act duplicitously like this, I'm available to run your foundation. No, Kevin Roberts must go. His judgment is compromised and his behavior is reprehensible. ICE has a call center aiming to track down unaccompanied migrant minors, and the media wants to turn it into something evil. So there are children who've been sexually trafficked and labor trafficked into this country by cartels, coyotes, and the U.S. governments under Biden. The current government wants to find these kids. They found 23,000 of the ones. Because the Biden administration lost control of 197,000 as they allowed them to be trafficked into the country under their lax, foolish policies. So now we're trying to track them down to return them home, but we want to turn to something evil. We're going to do it so we can deport them. Well, yes, they're going to be deported. They're illegal. ICE wants to create a round-the-clock facility that can handle 6,000 to 7,000 calls per day related to the immigration enforcement. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement aims to open a call center that would have a dedicated unit to track down unaccompanied migrant children with the help of state and local police. The problem is that they're not migrant children. They are not migrant children. That's a fallacy. They're illegal aliens. Tell the truth. Stop lying to the public. Well, once again, the Washington Compost is attacking veterans. This time, at least, they put their attention mostly on an industry that needs attention. But they still make false claims about veterans and mislead people. And this is becoming obnoxious. And the Washington Post needs to be reined in for its yellow journalism on this issue. The unregulated industry that coaches veterans to pile on benefits. So, here we go. There's all these things. How do I increase my VA rating? VA rating, VA rating. This is all true. The number of veterans receiving 100% disability ratings has surged in recent years. For-profit firms, influencers, the VA itself are behind the trend. Now, that is a partial truth, which is what we call a lie. Intentionally omitting the fact in the title that the surge is a consequence of the PACT Act and of Iraq and Afghanistan 20-year conflict. That's why the surge in 100% disability for veterans. And quite frankly, I'm appalled by this garbage. I myself have walked around in agonizing pain for over 2 years on something that I could have gone and got a claim and got a much higher disability. I also have other medical issues which I have got nothing for, and I have not pushed and demanded. I've now been retired from the Army for 6 years. 6 years. And the injuries that I sustained in my service have gotten progressively worse and have not been treated, despite the fact that I asked for treatment and sought care. And now it's causing me significant problems. And to hear the Washington Post talk about veterans trying to game the system, it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. He wears a straw cowboy hat, flashes fistfuls of cash, and has attracted nearly 200,000 YouTube subscribers with his secret strategy for winning big with VA disability claims. The Gulf War veterans pitch to fellow vets for just $99.95 a year. His boot camp tutorials will teach you them how to supercharge your VA claim rating and your paycheck. Meet Combat Craig, a grizzled and plain-spoken online influencer who has helped drive a booming unregulated industry of for-profit firms that coach former service members to take advantage of the Department of Veterans Affairs' $193 billion disability compensation program and take a cut for themselves. Like many other ex-military entrepreneurs in the thriving claims industry, Combat Craig boasts that he can help virtually any veteran obtain a 100% disability rating from the VA. Influencers hype the 100% threshold as the holy grail because it pays about $50,000 a year tax-free and comes with no-cost health care and a host of other perks. Perks for missing testicles, traumatic brain injury, missing limbs, suffering constant ringing in your ears, suffering constant, fear from post-traumatic stress disorder. Perks. Screw you, Washington Post. You little slimy bastards have all kinds of perks. Perks for making a person whole? You're disgusting. Wow. Disability ratings of 100% were granted to only the most incapacitated veterans, typically those who with war wounds preclude them from taking civilian jobs. But today the maximum rating is most commonly held by one by far. Of the roughly 6 million veterans receiving disability payments last year, about 1.5 million were designated 100% disabled, a nearly ninefold increase since 2021. Military service is often dangerous, and VA officials say many veterans hold a 100% disability rating because of disfiguring injuries or severe illnesses they suffered while serving the United States. The toll from 2 decades of war in Afghanistan and Iraq, they say, is responsible for much of the trend towards higher awards. There the truth is, but not at the top when they draw you in with a clickbait headline. They lie. Here they tell you the truth. A Washington Post investigation found that for-profit consultants like Combat Craig are compounding the spike in ratings with manipulative tactics. Many urge veterans to stretch the truth about their ailments and claim hard-to-prove conditions that the VA is unlikely to challenge. Well, anybody that does that is a shameful reprobate, and they're not a true veteran. They're a huckster. Far from embellishing claims, I've suffered without making claims for legitimate service-related injuries. My elbow, which I got a disability rating for, has been acting up for 4 months, and I've been in pain for 4 months. And I haven't rushed off to get a claim and to get paid for it. It's service-related. These people are disgusting. I had to convince the vets they have PTSD, said Tyson Balaam, 33, a former soldier who worked as a senior intake specialist for Veterans Guardians, a North Carolina-based disability claims company. The vets would tell me I don't have that symptom. I had to tell them to get your rating higher, you have to have these symptoms. Well, I actually had a sleep disorder, couldn't sleep more than 15 or 20 minutes at night for years. It was exhausting. And all they did, the VA was send me to a psychologist who had never rated a veteran before. I was supposed to see a psychologist who's been working for 38 years on post-traumatic stress disorder cases. I saw her, and in 20 minutes, her evaluation was, I don't have PTSD. But she couldn't explain why I couldn't sleep. And I got no rating for that. See? Not milking the system. The surge in 100% ratings is primarily driven by a younger generation of veterans who served in the aftermath of 9/11. Post-analysis U.S. Census Bureau data found that employed veterans between the ages of 26 and 35 account for the biggest increase in ratings, between 70 and 100%. A high disability designation usually does not mean that a veteran is physically unable to work. Correct. Most disabled veterans under 65 still earn paychecks from full-time jobs. Some 100% ratings are deemed permanent and total, or R&T in the lingo of veterans. The designation is especially covered for veterans because it means VA usually can't take back the award even if their condition improves. So, this is something from a Reddit site. A question for 100%ers. So I'm at 90% now, which is phenomenal, and I'm truly blessed for it, but I can't stop thinking of getting to 100. And by the way, the difference between 100 and 90% is nearly double. If you're 90%, you get about half the money you get if you're 100% disabled. Or not disabled, disability rating. When I'm sure is very common for someone with my rating and even around my rating. My question goes for the 100%ers. How has your guys' lives been since getting 100? To me, it seems like life-changing, but to some, I see posts that it's just extra money that they can do without. Any not well-known perks or anything once you get to 100%? I know there are property tax exemption for my state and all stuff, but is there anything more, things that are great but not many people talk about? Like I said, 100% would be a dream, more come true at this point, so I just keep daydreaming. Wow, you're a veteran and you're daydreaming about getting 100% disability payment? You're a slimy reprobate. And then someone responded and said, honestly, once I got to 100%, I realized that for the first time since I was a kid, I could really afford not to work. Are you serious? That has helped me so much, I can't even explain it. I'm not trudging to work because the family needs food in their bellies or a roof over our heads. I'm going to work because I want to and because I can. It's a world of difference. Also, I need health insurance. I'd sworn off VA medicine years before I realized I might have a shot at being rated. But that's a little easier to come by than enough money to support a family. Yeah, well, those people need to be exposed, but just blatantly calling veterans scheming is nonsense. Wow. The VA accredits 15,000 agents, from lawyers to large nonprofits, to file claims on behalf of veterans at no cost. The country's most prominent veteran service organizations, nonprofit groups such as the American Legion of Disabled American Veterans, provide step-by-step guidance for hundreds of thousands of clients on how to maximize their rating. What else we got here? To calculate a disability rating, the VA starts by assuming a veteran is 100% efficient person, meaning he or she is able-bodied enough to work and handle daily tasks. Disability award lowers that efficiency. The more disabilities awarded, the VA applies them in order to apply the severity to the remaining percentage efficiency. The calculation for a vet with PTSD, sleep apnea, or plantar fasciitis, and they did go through this, listed. And so, at 90%, you get $27,000 per year, they say. At 100%, you get $45,000 per year. See, it's almost double. Many veterans say they see the money in perks as it's not perks. What perk am I getting? I don't get any perks. No perks. We're trying to get civilians who've left the military to understand that a rating of 50% or higher, you get free license plates. 30% gets you veterans preference for federal government. Well, I get veterans preference as a veteran. You don't get veterans preference for being disabled. You get veterans preference for being a veteran, which I disagree with. And I don't get free license plates. What is he talking about? These people are just making shit up. Army veteran Marcus Obeda saw his PTSD rating rise from 50 to 70%. His monthly checks jumped from $1,800 to $2,300 after paying a flat fee to the consulting company. Huh. Anyway, it goes on. This is a very long story. These people are shameful. They're right to expose these companies, but attacking veterans, it's a nonsense. Anyway, I don't want to go any more than that. That's just annoying. Here's the one that was sent earlier, that super chat. That's Wentworth Mayor, a South African who is now a mayor. I hope she's a citizen. You shouldn't be a mayor if you're not a citizen. Anyway, wow, 455 people currently here. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done that already, folks. All right, Harsfontein Power is an inside job. Incompetence able by the scrapyards. Interesting. All right, so you guys are chatting over here. With the ongoing U.S. government shutdown now affecting air traffic and logistics operations, how do you see this influence over our military readiness and national security planning? Not having a major impact. We don't have any major conflicts going on in which we need civilian commercial cargo services or commercial airlines to get people from place to place. We do rely on commercial flights to get people overseas who go in temporary status, but it's not going to affect any military operations that I can think of. No. Does anyone have a link to where Chris posted the questionnaire? Okay, Devin, why do people keep asking? I said za.usembassy.gov. Just go there and read the site and click on the right thing. You're supposed to read the site before you click on the site, so go to the U.S. Embassy and click on it. It's simple. It's simple. It's simple. It's simple. Charles Nelson wants to know how many months it's going to take for the city to collapse. It's already been in free fall since Bloomberg was mayor. It's already unsafe to walk the streets in much of New York. You're already accosted by naked people walking in Times Square, not being arrested for public indecency. You're already dealing with sky-high rates. The city's already in free fall, so this will just accelerate it. You mean the communists, they can now rename New York to Little South Africa? Not a lot of questions, but a lot of comments here. So Ronnie Jackson wants to put a bill that if government had shut down the centers, well, they shouldn't get paid. President's making an announcement. Okay, let's go to that then. That was 11:47, so knowing Trump, he'll still be talking. Oh, there he is. Trump makes an announcement.
By the world system. Already Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and EMD, Serrano have agreed to drastically lower their prices for American patients. And today, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are joining the phenomenal list of the most exciting announcements. I mean, nobody's ever had announcements like, and this has to do with other pharmaceutical products also. But we're covering this today because it's such a big seller, because it's the #1 selling thing there is today. These are two companies that behind the groundbreaking weight loss drugs that have helped millions of Americans struggling with obesity live better, longer lives, everything else. These are the two companies that really broke ground. Until now, neither of these two popular drugs have been covered by Medicare for weight loss, and they've only rarely been covered by Medicaid. They've often cost consumers more than $1,000 per month, and some a lot more than that. Americans have been spending as much as 520% more for Zepbound and 1,400% more for Wegovy than patients in Europe. Think of that. 1,400% more than a patient in Europe for the exact same box. And that ends starting today. The other countries are not happy with us. Now, I don't think they like me too much, Bobby, but that's okay. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are committing to offer Zepbound and Wegovy at most favored nations rates for American patients. This will slash the cost of Wegovy from $1,350 a month to ultimately $250 a month. $1,350 to $250. Did I do a good job? They don't write about it. You know, they like to not write these things. And reduce, you think Biden could have done this? I don't think so. And reduce the monthly cost of Zepbound from $1,080 to $346. In addition, they're both committing that future GLP-1 weight loss drugs taken orally, which are currently under development, will be sold at no more than $149 per month. It's a massive. Think of that. You go from $1,300 to $149 a month. We anticipate these new versions will be coming out in a very short period of time. All of these drugs will be available directly to the consumer at trumprx.gov. Trump, they want to use my name. Trump, it better be good. trumprx.gov. And I think it's turning out to be pretty amazing, right, us? Just as significantly, Medicare and Medicaid will finally cover the cost of these weight loss drugs for millions of patients suffering from obesity. Co-pays for Medicare patients will be as low as $50. This is tremendous savings. I mean, now you're talking about from $1,350 to $50. This is tremendous news for the American seniors. And you all remember when I had 1/8 of 1% for the year. I cut it 1/8, and I was so thrilled. But now we're cutting it 1,000%, 1,200%. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Nobody else could have done it, but I say that modestly. In addition, you think it was easy dealing with these people? It wasn't. You think it was easy saying, Your drug, Mr. Eli Lilly, that we're selling for $1,300 is going to be sold for $250. You know the amazing thing, the stocks all went up. I mean, these guys they're fantastic. Because it's going to equalize the world. The world's a bigger place, and it's going to equalize. I was a little surprised to see that, but I'm happy about it. In addition, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have agreed to provide all of their other medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. Most favored nations, meaning that you will pay the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's what you're going to pay. Whereas before they paid low prices and we paid, you know, thousands of percentile ahead more. And to sell these drugs to all consumers at deeply discounted prices via TrumpRx.com. When is TrumpRx.com opening?
The site is open. It will launch in terms of giving people prices before the end of the year.
Yeah, you got to make sure it's successful. It's got my name on it. I don't want to.
You can't send luggage ahead of your flight. That's illegal because of terrorism concerns. You can send cargo, but cargo is expensive. You can send extra bags on the flight. If you pay for it, depending on the airline, don't tell people it's $250 because that is one charge for one airline at one time. Those things change.
They got it up, and they couldn't finish. It's about, would you say, 5 years behind schedule? And about 2,000% over budget. Then he tells us how to run Medicaid. Many of the most widely used drugs will be available for 60% off, or even more than that. In addition, all new medications introduced by Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to the American market will be sold at the heavily reduced most favored nations price. Most favored nations price, that's the best. Because they have been thousands of percent lower than what we were selling in many cases. Furthermore, Eli Lilly is investing $27 billion. That's all. And Novo Nordisk will invest $10 billion. That's all. That's peanuts. In the United States to reshore,
Peanuts.
do a big domestic manufacturing job in the facilities they're going to spend. So Eli Lilly spent $27 billion. Novo is spending $10 billion in the United States. So they're building new plant and equipment. That's part of what will be $20 or $21 trillion this year. There's never been anything like it. I know nobody talks about it, but there's never been anything like, I would say, you would say, that there's never been anything like this ever, whether it's China or Europe, or you could take all of Europe, there's never been anything like this. So we're already past 17 trillion. We're going to be, I think by the time the year closes out, we'll have investments of over $21 trillion based on the way we're going. And by the way, tariffs are very important. Without tariffs, perhaps it could be a little bit different, to put it mildly. Tariffs are so important. The decision in the Supreme Court would be devastating to our country if we got a negative, devastating if we got a negative decision. But this is a great day for American health and healthcare, and for all of American patients. These are things that are miracles to have this happen. And they're, you know, we're bringing all our medicines, again, because of tariffs, we're bringing all our medicines. If you remember where during COVID, we made almost no medicine here. We had to go to China.
So what's interesting about this is the Democrats have been trying to use this as an issue to divide Americans for decades, the high cost of medication, and they blame it on greedy pharmaceuticals. What they fail to mention is the lengthy process the Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. government have for approving these drugs. The trials that go on for years, the billions of dollars of development cost, and most of these drugs never make it to market. So these companies invest billions in a drug that never succeeds. They don't make a single cent off of it. So they have to make the money back to continue to invest and develop these medications. The drugs are regulated abroad, so they want to have a foothold in markets for other drugs where they actually make money. So they're forced to sell these drugs at reduced prices in Canada, in Europe. And so Europeans and Canadians live off the backs of American taxpayers, and American consumers are paying these outrageous prices for the true development cost of the drugs. They're all the true development costs. We bear the cost, and Europeans and Canadians and the people around the world do not bear the cost. And therefore, this has been unfair. But the Democrats have railed about this for years, and they've taken no steps to change it. Dramatic, one swift, fell swoop. Donald Trump cuts the cost of these pharmaceutical drugs that are, many people, other than the weight loss thing, are life-saving and life-altering. And Trump does it.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking you, Mr. President, for declaring war on chronic disease in this country. This is something no American president has ever done. If
Correct.
we want to solve the chronic disease crisis, we have to tackle obesity. Obesity is the #1 driver of chronic disease. 50% of our adult population are obese or overweight, and it drives about 50% of healthcare costs in this country. Diabetes, cardiac diseases, we are going to see a decline because of this historic agreement. We're going to see a decline in costs, but also, more importantly, in the afflictions themselves. President Trump is the friend of the forgotten American. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly. And these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. At one point, the majority of prescriptions, the highest concentration of prescriptions in this country, was the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem? This will be a lifesaver to them.
Bobby Kennedy has a medical condition.
It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that. We're about to release dietary guidelines that are going to change the food culture in this country. They're going to change the kind of food the military gets. They're going to change the kind of food that our children get. We're releasing those in December. The Presidential Council for Physical Fitness is going to get more Americans into, particularly our children, into physical activity so that we can attack the root causes of this. But in the meantime, there's nothing more important than we can do than lower this price. As I said, it is the #1 cost of all drugs. This is the biggest drug in our country. That's why this is the most important of all the MFN announcements we've made. This is going to have the biggest impact on the American people. All Americans, even those who are not on Medicaid and Medicare, are going to be able to get the same price for their drugs, for their GLP drugs. This happened because of the vision of David Ricks, of Mike Dustar, and the other people, and the people on our team who figured out a way to align the interests of the shareholders of their company with the health of the American public. And it is a momentous accomplishment. It took months and months of negotiations. And I had a wonderful conversation with Mike Dustar about his experience. And he thanked me for the caliber of people who are on our side of the negotiating team. Chris Klump, who walked away from $1 billion business in order to join this administration, Emma Hernandez, David Brooks, and of course, Dr. Oz and Marty McCary, who made this happen. They saw that this could be a win-win situation, that this was not a zero-sum game. The Biden administration tried to solve this problem unsuccessfully, I might add, by throwing $40 billion at it. And they were able to achieve an agreement that will actually create savings for the American public. So we're making all of this available at a savings, and that's because the price of diabetes prescriptions is also going to drop. And the savings that we get from that are now going to make it available to people who do not have diabetes. People who have a BMI of 27 and above, or pre-diabetic, or have heart disease risk, they will be able to get it, but everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year.
Well, that'd be amazing if it's true.
Dramatic effects on human health in this country. And I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. He said that I'd gotten a lot done as HHS Secretary, but almost none of that is due to my ability. It's because I'm surrounded by people who are smarter than me, who are more able than me.
Very
and
modest.
Those people came into the administration because they were inspired by President Trump.
True.
People like Chris Klump are here because they see this.
Do you think they are smarter than you?
Yeah, believe me, they're a lot smarter than I am.
He doesn't really mean that he's being modest.
It is true, unfortunately.
It's a beautiful thing.
But I want to thank you, Mr. President, because you've made me a success here by allowing me to attract these extraordinary people. And I want to again thank David Ricks, who we've been in this Oval Office again and again. You keep saying he's the smartest guy in industry, that he could talk a dog off a meat truck. But it came to the table, and Mike Newstart told me, he said,
Convinced people for 20 years that it was okay for Europe to pay $10 and for America to pay $140. That's why they make 45, 50 million a year. He did. Finally, I said, I've had it, right?
You did.
He did. But anybody could do that, but they're entitled. But now it's down to what it should be.
and Mike Newstart told me what a pleasure it was to negotiate with people who were smart, who had common sense, who were able to put themselves in his position and hammer out this deal that is good for everybody. And it's great for the American public. I want to close again by just saying that this is a tool in the toolkit. It is not a silver
Solution.
bullet. It is an arrow in our quiver.
Yep.
It will allow a lot of people who are locked into high-risk obesity to finally lose weight, to reset, and then start doing the kind of things that will address the root causes of obesity. So I want to thank these
Spot on,
extraordinary
Bobby.
CEOs for sticking with us on this, for allowing us to make this happen. Mike Newstart said to me, he said, we've known we've had to do this for many years. We just haven't been able to get over the edge, and that this
It's not yelling,
President
Devin.
Trump's order, his executive order, was the catalyst to do something that we always knew needed to be done. So again, thank you for your vision, for your commitment, and thank you to all the CEOs and all of my team for making this historic agreement happen.
Changed your view on Tylenol for women that are pregnant?
Oh, as I said,
Because there were some false reports out about Tylenol that Bobby changed his view. I don't think he's changing.
I'm not going to change until the science changes, and the science does not look like it's changing. It's getting stronger and stronger. Every day we recommend is that mothers, pregnant mothers, talk to their physicians, that the mothers of small kids talk to their physicians, and we've advised the physicians to reduce the thresholds and to reduce the amount of Tylenol that they give to children as much as possible, and only use it when it's absolutely critical.
Dr. Oz.
So we're going to go through some of the deal points, but it does make itself clear that the real stake here is the forgotten man. President Trump, I believe you won the election because you remember the forgotten man. You speak to them, they hear you, they listen to you, and he connects well because he actually does things that materially change their lives. Secretary Kennedy spoke passionately, as he always does, about the problems with obesity. And just to put some very fine point numbers on this, obesity itself is responsible for half of all chronic disease and definitely generates more than a quarter of all the money we spend out of CMS, the $1.75 trillion that we spend annually. We need to address this tempest of dramatically increasing prices for healthcare, and you're not going to do it just by throwing money at the problem. You have to actually literally deal with the causes of the increase in price, and pharmaceutical prices are a part of that. They've been a part of it for a long time, but this president insisted that we address it. In fact, the first time I heard this directly from you, sir, was in January at Mar-a-Lago, where he took Secretary Kennedy, myself, Mr. Ricks, who you'll hear from in a second, to dinner, and demanded explanations for most favored nation pricing and what's wrong with it. And there was not a good reason against it. Now, MAHA is critical. America will have to get fit in order to right-size the healthcare system, and MAHA has the answers. It has obesity management through diet and exercise and sleep and dealing with issues related to that. And I want to say it as clear as I can. Obesity is not an absence of GLP-1 drugs. We're all clear on that. But as Secretary Kennedy said, it is an arrow in our quiver that we must use and should use. The MAHA movement means making it easier for the right things to happen, easier for you to be healthy. If you're sitting at home and watching, that's what MAHA means to me. Reducing costs of the #1 most expensive medicine category in our country for Americans does just that. It is as MAHA as it gets. Today's the fourth MFN. President Trump highlighted the first three. Leading U.S. company, leading European company. We've dropped in fertility drugs, so we'll make lots of Trump babies, I'm hoping, by the midterms. But it's really about fairness. Fundamentally, it's fairness in pricing to Americans who have been getting ripped off, paying 3 times more than their European counterparts for the exact same product made in the same factory, in the same bottle, in the same packaging. We shouldn't be paying 3 times more, and we are no longer doing that. Fairness to the forgotten man also means dealing with the reality that they can afford a life-saving, life-changing drug that 10% or more of affluent Americans take, but folks without means can't manage it. Secretary Kennedy mentioned New York City. Actually, the #1 zip code is the Upper East Side, which is where you have property. And folks who know ritzy areas buy important real estate there because those real estate properties are worth a lot there. That should not be the #1 zip code in America for purchasing GLP-1 drugs. It speaks to the fact that we have an innately unfair system that penalizes folks who can use these medications the most, folks in the Rust Belt. Now, what are you supposed to do if the right thing to do for your health is right there, but you can't afford to get it? Folks need to be able to utilize these life-saving medications, and being fair about its distribution is essential. And we are democratizing access to these medications and dealing with a moral imperative to make sure that all Americans have access to avoiding all the obesity-related complications by making sure they can afford, if they do things right, not just MAHA-appropriate interventions, but also medications like this. In fact, we think these deals, and this part's very important, we believe these deals within 2 years, by the time the ink dries on these contracts that were signed earlier today, within 2 years, based on our health improvements, we will be budget neutral. These drugs will not cost us money. The American taxpayers will be getting their money back. That's how important it is for us to reduce the costs of healthcare in this country, especially when it's due to preventable problems like obesity. In addition, we have an update, Secretary Kennedy. We thought it was 125 million pounds. Mr. President, our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 million pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia, all the things we know are associated with obesity and much more. This wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the right tools and had the ability with a team that has been spoken of early. So I want to call out Abe Sutton. He's in the back right there. He leads the CMS Innovation Center. It made the deal possible. And they are announcing today a new model, a brand new model aimed at getting to the vulnerable populations amongst us these medications. The forgotten man will be able to afford these drugs now. Governors will be thanking President Trump. They should be calling directly, sir, because they're going to be able to afford Medicaid next year in ways unimaginable, and they will stop crowding out education and other civil services. We cannot be a wealthy nation without being a healthy nation. That's why today's MFN deal is a historic step forward for all of America. This is something that I don't think is partisan. There is no way you can argue against what just happened. These numbers to my side here, Administrator McCary, who's been instrumental in this process as well, $1,350 baseline.
Not anymore, Elmery.
Chris Klump will go through the numbers, but just focus on that 245, which is what he's going to point you to. And Chris Klump has been an unbelievable leader, an innovator. You've heard his name before. He's spoken here before, but he is continuing to change the face of CMS. And I love the fact that with his leadership, we're bringing a lot of wonderful people in. Inma Hernandez has been mentioned, John Brooks as well, and many others.
Let's get past mutual respect.
Who runs the legal
mutual admiration.
Because these guys are barracudas, Mr. President. They will take you down, slice you in little bits.
Next speaker, please.
And Howard's been there. It's no longer happening. You've got sharp folks. We're open for business. It's a generational opportunity to serve, and people are showing up. God bless you. Let me introduce now Chris Klump, who is just makes my life easier every day. I'm so proud of him.
All great deals are rooted in principles. We've talked about this before, and today we're announcing another truly great deal. I love this deal, and it's rooted in the principle of potential. This is about unlocking the full potential of every American, the grandmother, the grandfather, the father, the son, by unlocking access to affordable life-saving medications that make a meaningful difference in their lives when they need them most. That's what today delivers. It's a deal built on principle for people, for the American people, and backed by policy that works. So the most important step to getting healthy is believing that your life has value, that God meant for each of us to have purpose and joy and to live fully. And to do that, we must be good stewards of our body. And the president has been fighting to provide another tool to do just this and enable this, and it's my pleasure to get to outline the contours of the deal today. So, first and foremost, customary with the three prior announcements, all of the customary most favored nation terms that you've grown familiar with apply to these two deals. So this is actually deals 4 and 5. Full Medicaid portfolios today at most favored nation prices. Shared savings from existing drug prices in Europe deployed back to the United States. All primary care drugs at U.S. net prices or most favored nation prices available on Trump RX before the end of the year. And most importantly, all future drug launches across commercial, Medicaid, Medicare, and the cash markets at most favored nation prices going forward. Now, GLP-1s. So first, under this agreement, starting doses of oral GLP-1s will cost just $149 a month for everyone. That's roughly 1/8 the cost of the list price today. For Medicare, manufacturers are voluntarily reducing their prices for GLP-1s currently used for diabetes and other covered indications to $245 per month across all doses. The savings generated from this change in prices will be used to provide new coverage to obesity and those who struggle with obesity and also have high metabolic or cardiovascular risk. Again, all for the same $245 a month. That means Americans struggling with diabetes and obesity, with heart disease, or other chronic conditions can access these life-changing drugs more affordably. Medicare patients, importantly, will only pay $50 a month for a copay. This is a massive reduction from what happens today. For
The
Medicaid,
government? No.
Novo and Lilly have agreed to extend the same new low government pricing to all 50 state Medicaid programs should they opt in. And we encourage them to opt in, and these will be available not just for diabetes and current covered indications, but also for obesity again. And in case you're getting tired of me saying it, at the same price of $245 a month, all covered doses. On Trump RX, the average price of injectables and orals will start at $350 on average. That's compared to roughly $500 today. And that will trend down to, you guessed it, the same $245 a month over the next 24 months. That is 1/5 of the list price. It is 1/2 of the best price in the United States today. We're hoping, Mr. President, that your friend who has to travel to England to afford these drugs will no longer need to do so and can come and do it in the United States. I'll also just mention that the $149 is $1 less than what you asked us to achieve. Just gonna make sure that's clear. So I want to highlight two other really important points that make me love this deal so very much. First, this isn't about spending more, it's about spending smarter. The savings from the diabetes drug price reductions are being used in a cost-neutral way to fund the new indications for taxpayers. That's amazing, and that happens inside of that same 24-month period. It's cost neutral. We're spending the money more wisely. But second, this isn't just about lower drug prices.
I don't really understand the comments in the chat here, people dissing America for reducing the cost of drugs we've been subsidizing for the rest of you in the world. You all been getting a freeloading ride, and we're going to reduce the cost of those drugs for people for life-saving medications, and people are making snarky comments in the chat about it and saying they thank God they're not American. Well, thank God for America, or you wouldn't have any medication or life-saving techniques. I don't really understand the carping. Also, for those who are going on and on about, well, drugs aren't the answer, no one said drugs are the answer. You heard Bobby Kennedy, if you were listening to him and not complaining about his voice, you heard Bobby Kennedy say very clearly that this is not a solution. This is an arrow in our quiver. It's one tool to get people who weigh 400 pounds who can't reduce to reduce it and then adjust their lifestyle. For those people who are massively morbidly obese, it's difficult for them to become active. Each step is bone crushing. The loss of the weight gives them an opportunity to reset, is what he said. I don't get this. Look, Bobby Kennedy's a Democrat. He's a sign of the historic Kennedy clan, a family that I detest immensely, including their little offspring, evil offspring, Maria Shriver. I detest them immensely. They're horrible, privileged people. But Bobby Kennedy has a very serious health condition that makes it difficult for him to speak. And he is standing up for health care and being attacked and pillared in the press every day. Now in my chat, some people are attacking him. If you don't like Bobby Kennedy, that's fine. You don't have to watch it. I'm not a fan of Bobby Kennedy, but I have respect for the guy. I mean, despite a physical ailment and affliction, he stands up with no hesitation whatsoever to, despite that gravelly voice, try to communicate with people. And he has put a team around him, and they are lowering the cost of drugs. This has never been done before, and I can't believe people are actually moaning about it. Seriously? Freeloaders in Europe, freeloaders in Canada get drugs at discounted prices that we subsidize. And while I don't use any of those drugs that these people have, I don't have obesity, I don't have diabetes, I don't have hypertension, I don't have high blood, I don't have any of those illnesses that most people my age have, I still pay for that because other medications don't get developed because the research went into those drugs. Other life-saving alterations don't get developed because of time and effort spent on that. So the fewer people we have on those drugs, the better we are. I don't understand the complaints and the moaning in the chat. I don't get it. Yes, and Daniel said it right. He's been a bastion for health and conservation for years. The guy is a stud. He's physically, other than his impairment, which he has no control over, he's physically fit. The guy he can bench press, he can run, he can lift. He's amazing. Anyway, so I don't get the comment that I'm glad I'm not American. That one surprised me. I don't get that. Anyway. So there you have it, folks. If people don't like what's said, they don't have to listen to it. It's no one is tying you down and dripping drops in your eye to keep them open so you have no ability to close your irises. It's as simple as that. Look, this is not an issue that was on the forefront for me. I'm much more concerned about foreign policy, about debt, much more concerned about handouts, much more concerned about criminal alien invaders in my country than I am about health. But that's because when I'm fit, I'm able. When it wasn't for my hip, I'm fit. I'm thin. I'm healthy. Even with my hip, I still have incredible heart rate, incredible blood pressure, very good cholesterol count, despite all of that, despite not being able to exercise like normal. So it's not something that was the forefront for me, and it's not something I focus on. What I focus on is those other things, so I'm glad that somebody in government is concerned about these things. And it's Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz, whom I had very little respect for when he ran for the Senate in Pennsylvania. He messed up our campaign. But nonetheless, what he's doing now, major respect for him. No need to apologize to anybody. Nobody needs to apologize, okay? I did not call a single person out by name intentionally. No one needs to apologize. If it's your opinion, if it's your view, you're welcome to it. As long as you're not a bigot and a racist, you can say what you like. You can disagree with me, all right? No one needs to apologize. No one should feel chastised here. No one should feel chastised here, okay? You are free to speak your mind on here as long as you're not abusive or disrespectful or racist. That's fine. People are entitled to that. I'm just saying I don't understand the comments. I don't get the comments at all. That just it caught me off guard. I never expected that from my audience, so it just kind of caught me off guard. But again, no one needs to apologize. No one said anything here that warranted an apology to me or to the program. All right? Are we good on that? Are we straight? Okay? My face isn't swollen. What are you talking about, PK? My face isn't swollen. No. Maybe I'm just fat. Yeah. So no, again, no one. You maybe think it's swollen because you see my eyes here caved in. It's because the sun. Yeah. So maybe that's why I look like I'm swollen. Anyway, no. Again, no need to apologize. Nobody was disrespectful or rude to me. No need to apologize. You are free to speak your mind here. Yeah. That's how I've always approached this. Anyway. Charles says, people are ignorant about Bobby Kennedy. He's overcome so much. Yes, he has. I'm not a fan, but I have respect for the guy. I don't have respect for that family, but I have respect for him. I mean, his father was murdered when he was a child, and he's dealt with this health issue. His wife is a leftist wackadoodle, but that's, whatever. Yeah, Trump just wins. What are the Democrats going to do now? And here's another thing. There were several questions in the chat I noticed going on asking, does this mean the government's open? I think that's what people were asking, but the way they asked it must have been like framed in Afrikaans sentence structure. No, the government's not open. And look at this. These people leaving billion-dollar companies to go work in the government for pittance, for peanuts, to develop these programs, to lower these prices, to improve the quality of life for Americans. They're working. Foregoing fortunes in the private sector to do this. And this is all because of Trump. Nobody forewent fortunes in the private sector to go work for Biden or Obama. No. But they do it for Trump. And they do it for America. And whether you like Trump or not, he just wins. The Democrats have never, in 50 years, been able to accomplish what Trump just accomplished in the last half hour. What Trump just accomplished in the last half hour is groundbreaking. If we can lower the cost of chronic disease in this country, then we won't have a deficit. Healthcare alone eats up the biggest portion of our budget. Healthcare and Social Security. That's not really part of the budget, Social Security, but healthcare. But you throw Medicaid, Medicare in there, it's insane. Yeah, they aren't getting paid and they're still working. Yeah, they love their country. Exactly. His father and his uncle both assassinated. Forced to pay for his own private security to prevent assassination. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, he says family's like my family, some bat crap crazy aunties and weirdo uncles. Yeah. Anyway. So there you go, folks. So what Donald Trump has just accomplished and his team in the last half hour is beyond comprehension. It's absolutely amazing. Again, for those who say drugs aren't the solution, you are correct 100%. Drugs are not the solution for most of these afflictions. Lifestyle changes are the most important aspect of fixing this. Lifestyle changes. Also, what's put in our food is a problem. So those two things together. And Bobby Kennedy has been going after those. That's why he's attacked all the time. He's attacked by corporations that don't want to change the narrative, don't want to change the situation. They want things to stay the way they've always been. That's the problem. Colonel, see how USA carries Africa so much needed meds. Is there no, there's no thank you. So all those antiretrovirals that are keeping 8.5 million, well, there aren't 8.5 million people on antiretrovirals. I don't know the exact figure, but I'm going to estimate based on CD4 counts that there are probably 8.5 million people with HIV in South Africa, probably at least 1 million people on antiretrovirals right now. So those 1 million people in South Africa are alive because of America, because of our research, because of our corporations developing drugs at great expense. Most drugs, 95 or 99% of drugs, never materialize. It's wasted money. Well, not wasted. They discovered that doesn't work, so it goes away. Most of them never come to fruition. So the whole antiretrovirals exist entirely because of the U.S., because of our research, because of the money spent here. Yeah, and people don't appreciate it. They just run their mouth. So the complaining about America cutting aid ignores the fact that we still do many things. We patrol the global commons to prevent piracy. If it wasn't for the U.S. Navy sailing through the Straits of Malacca and East China Sea and elsewhere off the coast of Africa, the incidence of piracy would be manifestly larger than they currently are. If it wasn't, that's what the Brits did for centuries, but they have a joke of a Navy now, so they can't do it, but we do it. And the Chinese benefit from that. We ensure that oil tankers get through the Straits of Malacca and the South China Sea to fuel China's economy. No, thank you. Instead, we get global competition from communists. What the United States does for the world is not without self-interest. We benefit from a healthy, safe, prosperous world because it's a place for us to ship our goods and to buy things in peace and security. So it's not entirely selfless. It is self-interest. It is in our interest to see people living in peace and harmony and prosperity. Nobody wants poverty. And the U.S., unlike most countries, do far more to ensure that. The Nordic countries get to look nice and lovely because they give money. Here's aid. Here you go. We give you money. Yeah, well, they don't really follow up on that aid, do they? They also don't secure the global commons to ensure that shipping lanes remain free, that international aviation is possible, that the internet is possible, that space exploration is possible. They don't do that. The United States does that. They don't develop life-saving drugs except for a few, European companies at Novo Nordisk and AstraZeneca, a few companies like that. But most of them are American companies that do this, and we get no credit for it. We just get abused for it. So without America, people would be dying from AIDS all over the place. Without America, millions of people would have starved to death in Africa. Without America, many more people would be dead as a consequence of malgovernance. So people can hate on America all they want, and if we go away, good luck to the rest of you. The opportunity cost of an unhealthy population cannot be understated. This is a great deal for America on an individual level as well as a nation. Agreed 100%, Jaya, 100%. People complain Trump has a huge ego. No one would ever accomplish or attain what he has without enormous ego, like complaining if a Ferrari doesn't have room for groceries. Yeah, well, Light Rain, he does have a tremendous ego, and I've always said that, but it doesn't matter. He's also an incredibly modest person when it comes to accomplishment. Look how he's sitting there after he does the announcement, and he's letting all these people take the stage and letting them share. And then he compliments them. And he always talks about, this and the other. He's always giving props to people who work for him. Yep. Yeah, well, they're going to say it because it's Trump RX. They've already started that. That was already announced. Trump RX was announced a few weeks ago, and they already came out, but they didn't understand what it was. So now they're going to go full speed and blame Trump. Yep. Yep, they're going to blame Trump. Europe gives Africa fish. U.S. teaches Africa to fish. That's true. Anyway, again, folks, not even need to apologize. There's no reason, but I wasn't castigating or admonishing anybody. Admonishing, not remonishing. Admonishing anybody. What the heck is remonishing? Admonishing. I wasn't admonishing anyone. I was just simply saying I was surprised by the comments. So no need to apologize. Nobody was abusive towards me or racist, and that's fine. I mean, it's insane. Some of those medications dropped by 70% in price. How would our SN look like when we get it? What is an SN? What the hell is an SN? What is an SN? When a man follows the vision, does what he says without listening to naysayers, remains consistent in the face of haters, you get what POTUS accomplishes. Well, Jack, I follow my vision. I ignore the naysayers, and I continue to do what I'm doing, and we get things done, and we're helping people. Which wasn't the intent initially. It just became part of the interesting thing. So, what is an SN? Would it be fair of me to guess that it's Social Security number that was being asked? Is it SSN? Well, Social Security number is a 9-digit number that starts with 3 letters that are typically associated with where you get your Social Security card, typically because of where you're born. So, it used to be area codes correlated with that, so, but not so much anymore. So, 3 digits, then a dash, then 2 digits, then 4 digits at the end. And it's a number you must protect because with that number, people can steal your identity. Social Security numbers. You must protect your Social Security number, all right? It was never intended, and it's not even legal for it to be an identification number, but it's a de facto identification number. Yep. It's how you receive money from the taxes you paid in when you become elderly. The grass is greener. Yeah, Devin, except it's not. It's not legally identification number. So, for instance, my driver's license doesn't have it, I don't think. They used to on the previous one, but they eliminated it because it's not legal to do that. Let me double check and make sure. Yeah, my Social Security number is not on my driver's license. Yep, not on there. Nope. Nope. And my Social Security number used to be on my military ID, but no longer. In fact, when you used to get decorations of some of my awards from back in the early days in the 80s, when I got decorated in the military, they had my Social Security number printed right on the certificate. So you gotta cover that up. Yep. No, yours won't start with RSA. It'll start with wherever they send you. Okay. What's going on with maize? There's no grass left in the UK. Keith wants me to ask if Carkeen Viola is still here. Ask her to re-ask her question as she can't read messages. Okay, I don't know who Carkeen, is it Carlene? I don't know, maybe it's Carlene Viola. And what's her question? I never saw her question. Would she ask it when I was doing the news? I'm going back and I'm not seeing anyone by that name. Looking. I don't see anything. Let me go back quite a ways. It usually doesn't let me go this far. But I'm coming to the end of it and I still don't see it. So I don't know who that person is. I'm happy to try to answer a question if I can. But I don't know why people come on here and ask, is Real ID like our... No, Real ID has nothing to do with the number. Nothing with number. Real ID is all about biometrics. Real IDs have biometrics embedded in them. They have holograms and things like that to ensure that it's a legitimate ID and it's proper. Yeah, it's the next step in identification. That's what Real ID is. But my driver's license is not Real ID. In fact, I think it says it right on there, not for Real ID purposes. A driver's license not for real ID purposes. Yep. So my driver's license, which has a hologram in it, and it has a barcode, and it has a QR code, it still nonetheless is not valid for a real ID because there's no biometrics in it. And I like that. I don't need more people having my biometrics. That's nonsense. What video of what documents for what refugees? What are you talking about, Rian? You need to read the U.S. Embassy website. That tells you what you need. He stays consistent. So do you, Chris. Got livid when some refugees don't give you as much as a shout out or thanks. Water on Goose's back. Yeah, exactly. No, but also it gets frustrating when people give you partial stories and they want you to answer questions so they can use it against you. No wonder that most presidents' appearance changed in such a short period. Brutal schedule, massive stress. It is. It is. Well, look at how Obama aged. Look at how Clinton aged. And still the U.S. drivers is made of an RFID tag and not paper like here. But it depends on the state, Devin Steenkamp. It depends on the state. Each state is different. Each state issues their own driver's license. This one here, I can see my face in the photograph, and then there's a digitized face of it superimposed slightly to the right, which you don't see when you look at it head on. But if you tilt the ID, you can see it. Also, there's a smaller photograph of me on the other side, and it has a watermark, and it also has my initials and my year of birth in the watermark, which you wouldn't see head on, and you can't copy. It won't scan on a scanner, so you can't copy it. On the back is a barcode and a QR code, and it has my date of birth on the back as well. And it has the type of license. No restrictions, no corrective lenses, none of that. So, yep, there you go. There you go. Interesting enough, it does not include my weight. The driver's license used to include people's weight. They're not doing that anymore. Oh, crap, this expires next year. I got to get a new damn driver's license already. This is so quick. Not even 4 years. I've already had 2 driver's licenses in Pennsylvania. I've only been a Pennsylvania resident for 6 years. So now I'm making the second one and a third one next year. It also has on here that I'm an organ donor and a military veteran, and it has my signature. So, yep. And it took all of 10 minutes to get that issued to me. 20 minutes max at the building, but 10 minutes to process it. And I walked away with my driver's license. Didn't come in the mail. So much voter fraud is not displaying Social Security number. Most use their driver's license to vote. Well, no, that has nothing to do with Social Security. Okay, first off, Rhombus, so you're mistaken. You're mistaken. Okay, first off, Social Security number doesn't prove you're a citizen. Many foreign nationals, all refugees, all asylum seekers who get in the process, all have Social Security numbers. People who come to America to work, and many South Africans who come here to work and lived here for several years, they have Social Security numbers because you have to have a Social Security number for income and for paying taxes. So having a Social Security number doesn't prove that you're a citizen. Doesn't at all. Not at all. So voter ID is a partial solution. But voter ID actually would need to say that you're a citizen because driver's license is issued to non-citizens. And not having a Social Security number doesn't matter because non-citizens have Social Security numbers too. So if you're a South African with a Florida driver's license and has a Social Security number on it, you go to register to vote, you register to vote. If you defrauded, you defrauded. That's not going to change anything, Rhombus. That's not going to change anything. The only way to change that is if your driver's license or your identification card require that you have citizenship. So one way to ensure the person's a citizen is those with passports are citizens. So if that's accepted form of ID, then you know the person's a citizen. But no other form of identification that I'm aware of identifies you as a citizen. My military ID card doesn't say I'm a citizen. My driver's license doesn't say I'm a citizen. But my passport, the mere possession of it, they only issue it to U.S. nationals, means I'm a citizen. I hope that helps. Thank you for the super chat there, Boer Bull. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Why did my alert box not go off, or did I miss that? How many of the refugees that were on your channel and went over every day Sunday channel? Well, I don't know, not so many. A few. Willem and Kara on here frequently. I've seen Earl on occasionally, but not since then. I think very few of them watch my channel. I haven't heard from Thea in a month and a half. I don't think that many people come over, watch my channel after they get here because they weren't really interested in what I had to say. Most of them really just, part of it too is they're trying to build their lives. That takes time, and there's time to sit around and listen to me for 3 hours every day. But no, very few of them, to my knowledge, are still watching my program. Very few. So that's their prerogative. Whatever. President Trump doing very well for his age, I agree. A California learner's license in the 80s. Okay. Get fair weather people, that is life. They come into your life for time, and then they go off and they go about your own business. Bitter Ender, 10 Rand, thank you for that. Mail-in votes are not okay. I understand where you're coming from there. So, but I'm just a permanent resident for now. Right. You can't vote, legal alien. You're not a citizen. But you probably have a driver's license and you have a Social Security number. So having a Social Security number and a driver's license isn't going to stop voter fraud. Do you know if my law degree would be recognized? No. Rion Pretorius, it will not be recognized in the U.S. Well, the bottom line is you don't have to have a law degree to be a practicing lawyer. I don't know if people know that. You don't have to have a law degree to be a lawyer. You just have to pass the bar examination. Generally speaking, that means you're either a practicing lawyer come from abroad or move to a different state to practicing lawyer. But you have to pass the bar in every state. My father's girlfriend had to pass the bar in Virginia, in Maryland, in Pennsylvania, because she practiced law in all those places. So you have to pass the bar. But, I could go take the bar examination now. If I pass it, then I can be a lawyer. But yeah, you don't have to go. But so if you know law, Rion, and you're an experienced lawyer, you'll probably be able to find employment with an existing law firm if that's what you want to do. But you will have to learn some of the peculiarities of our law system. And you will have to take the bar examination. You'll have to do that. All right? Do you have a state ID card? No such thing. No such thing. Americans are not required to carry identification. You can't force us to carry identification. Police can ask for identification, but if we don't have it, we don't have it. You can't be charged with a crime. Now, if you're operating a motor vehicle without a driver's license, which is usually considered the most common form of identification, then you can be cited because you have to have a license to operate a motor vehicle and you must have it on you. In the UK, you get pulled over and you don't have your driver's license on you. You get like 10 days or 2 weeks to show up at a police station and show them that you have the driver's license. I don't know why you have to do that because they can just search the database, but whatever the case is. In the States, you're required to carry that driver's license. And I think that's funny too because cruisers have computers now and they just go in, they find your driver's license there. Why are you required to carry your driver's license? Just something can be stolen. Anyway, but we don't have state ID. No such thing. Now, states have IDs for people who need some sort of identification, but there's no requirement for us to carry identification. I leave the house on foot. I don't carry identification. I leave the house and drive. I have my driver's license. I don't carry my passport around. There's no need for that. There's no national identity card. This isn't a fascist, Nazi police state like Germany, where you have to register with the police. Only criminals, only pedophiles should be registering with the police. But in Germany, every German must register with the police. If you move somewhere and you don't register with the police, you can be cited. You can be fined for not registering with the police. The police have to know where everyone's living. It sounds like fascism to me. Now, in America, you move where you want, when you want, you do what you want, where you want, as long as you abide by the law and don't influence others or impinge on others. It's as simple as that. But there's no national ID, no state ID. You're welcome, Rihan. There's 418 people here. I'm surprised that many people are still here. Okay, my first finding was through the rugby channel, thinking, who's this American oak who supports Buck so much? Well, Alan, I'm glad you found me on Rugby Ascendant. That's not many people that come this way from that direction. Most of the people come from here or there, but I'm grateful. We're over 10,000 finally on the channel. That was a lot of work. I know a lot about rugby. Ask Nas Bota if I know about rugby. Nas will tell you I know about rugby. Police can detain you for identification if you're under investigation. I don't understand what you mean. Detain you for identification. If you're suspected of a crime, is that what you mean? Yes, you can be detained for suspicion of a crime. And if you're suspected of a crime, you have to produce identification in most jurisdictions. If you have it. If you don't have it, you can't produce it. You're not required to carry it. So I'm not sure what your point is, Light Rain. I did not listen to news for a long time. This is very negative. My son, who now lives in Australia, told me that I should listen to your YouTube. That was, wow, Kathy, that's how you found me. Well, thank you to your son. Thank you to your son. I appreciate that. Oh, what's a rugby? It's Rugby Ascendant. Rugby Ascendant. Can one of the mods put a link into Rugby Ascendant so people can rock up for the France game on Sunday? That's going to be epic because it's a late afternoon game for me. It's a 10 o'clock game for South Africans. So we're going to be, and by the time it's over, it'll be pitch dark here because we had daylight savings. So we've changed the clock and it gets dark earlier now. You might have found me through Morning Shot, yeah. Let's go way back, but I didn't subscribe. I was very sick during COVID. Oh, sorry to hear about that, but I'm glad you're better now. There's Carlene Viola. Carlene Viola, what is your question? It is Carlene. He wrote Carkeen. I think he mistyped. What is your question? You had a question about rugby something, or not rugby, about refugee program. I'll try and answer it. Reddick, I think you were here early on. Yeah, please ask your question again. Team Fenta gave 70 Rand. Thank you for that. Speaking of that, I'm waiting for a message from someone named Fenta. So let me look for that. All right, we got some more people that want to join. Come on. Empty admissions, members, pending request. Okay. Unknown number. Got one person there. Okay. No, so only one person joined with that. I'm looking for, hang on. Oh, heard from. Okay, cool. Cool beans. All right, cool beans. All right. Do we need to go to AA for a driver's license? No, you don't. What do you mean AA? In South Africa, AA, Automobile Association? No. Why would you go there for a driver's license? I don't understand. Are you asking if you need to get an international driver's license to come to America? No, you do not. You do not. If you have a South African driver's license, it'll be recognized when you first arrive here. But you're going to have to get a driver's license in the state you're resident in very quickly. Every state has different requirements. I think Pennsylvania is 30 days, something like that. Yeah, I would not go to. It's like I need a police clearance. No, you don't. We're not going to trust the South African Police Service to tell us that you're not a criminal. They might tell us you are a criminal when you're not. Snippets, is it correct that Operation Pet Lift is under negotiation with the U.S. government and that it might be reinstated? That is correct. That is correct. The last information I had from Morgan, they are in negotiation. But the embassy website says they have no affiliation with anyone, and that's true at the moment. That's absolutely true. So both things. U.S. RAP link on embassy website takes me to login page. Okay, that's not a question. That's a statement. It's not a question. That's a statement. What is your point? Let me go to the U.S. Embassy website. Okay, za.usembassy.gov, and it loaded just perfectly fine. Okay, all right. So where is the link down here? U.S. RAP intake questionnaire. Is that what you're talking about, Carlene? You didn't ask a question. You made a statement. Okay. We just drop you off like a Putco bus. We can detain a suspect of crime for up to 12 hours to confirm identification. Well, that's South African law, not U.S. law. And every state's different. But you cannot detain people beyond a certain period without charging them with a crime. If you suspect them of a crime. But you have to suspect. You can't just detain people because you want to detain people. You have to have a legitimate basis, and you have to justify that. You think the person, drove, under the influence. Every state's different, Tony Pretorius, but the norm is about 4 years. 4 years. Johan says, when he's here, only listen to my news. Well, I hope that's true. Takes some time to get used to driving the wrong side of the road. Well, no, it doesn't, Kathy. I adapted to driving the wrong side of the road pretty quickly when I lived in Botswana, when we lived in near South Africa, when I went to Eswatini, when I visited the UK, I went to Ireland, Scotland. I had no trouble adjusting to driving on the wrong side of the road, and it was a piece of cake. And in fact, I drove on the correct side of the road with my Toyota 4Runner in Gaborone. I get in the morning, it's left-hand drive, the correct side of the road with an automatic transmission. I drove to the embassy, parked my vehicle in my parking space. Well, I didn't have a signed parking space, but it was always empty. Next to my government vehicle, which is a Land Cruiser, which was a standard transmission on the wrong side of the road, right-hand drive. I would go from left-hand automatic to right-hand standard. Now, if you think it's hard to make an adjustment, try doing that. No, it's not hard to get used to driving on the wrong side of the road. I do it all the time in Southern Africa. I mean, I don't understand what you're talking about. Exactly. Arctic says, just chill. Driving with no potholes and no taxis is a piece of piss. Exactly. Well, we don't have many roundabouts. We don't have many roundabouts. I told you this morning I'm going on an SW. What's an SW? Can you renew South African driver's license USA? I don't know. Why would you want to renew it? Saw you for the first time when you announced your FT program at OR Tambo, and I love the passion with which you shared the information. So, wow, Pearl, that's cool. So when I was Wimpy, I used to hate Wimpy, but I'm okay with Wimpy for breakfast now. I've gotten okay with it. And I was at Wimpy that morning. Yep. I didn't want to go to News Cafe. I was like, ugh, News Cafe again. Ugh. Yeah, I didn't want to go to any other place. And it was morning, and I was hungry. So I sat down at Wimpy, and the breakfast is good. And I told them, I said, look, I don't have a lot of time. Can you bring the food? And they did. They were really good. Don't mean to go on about it, but any development on the 12 Democrats? No, there's no development, Crony, and you're not going on about it. It's a fair question. There's no development. No development. Okay. Constantly getting the 403 forbidden code every time I open a... yes, Rainier, it's a known problem. It's a known issue that the web guys are working on for the embassy. They're working on that for the U.S. government. They're aware of it. It's the 403 is probably because the server's overwhelmed. But of course, Crispin Piri from Durko, the spokesman, says there's a slow uptake on the program. Yeah, I was going to say the South African embassy doesn't offer that service. Why would you want to renew it? Do you think there will be refugee limp flights during December? Yes, I do. I do. Well, the festive season has nothing to do with Beulah. we don't pay attention to holidays. I mean, people deploy on Christmas Day. People go to combat zones to fight on Christmas Day. Flights bring supplies to people on Christmas Day. That won't stop anything. No, the thing stopping things is the budget. And I was told I was wrong about that, famously. And a very polite and respectful viewer didn't argue with me and told me that I was wrong because RSC said that it's because of presidential determination. And I said, that's not true. It's because of the budget. It's because of the budget. Because we don't have a budget. People are not there to process you. People are not here to process you. So once again, that was a factor, but it wasn't the proximate cause. The proximate cause of people not coming to America is this impasse, the government shutdown. Until the government opens, they're not bringing people over. Now, it has now been a week since the presidential determination came out. Has any refugee come to America? No. So who is correct? Go ahead. Who is correct? Come on. I want to hear it. Who is correct? The reason that the people weren't coming over without any information from the government, based on my experience, my analysis, who was correct in saying that it wasn't a presidential determination? It was actually the budget impasse. I mean, here we go. Because I mean, if it's not the presidential determination, then people would be coming over. There would be refugees arriving right now, correct? Yes? But are they coming? No, they're not. Sorry, I'm just having a little fun there. I'm just having a little fun there, guys. Just having a little fun. Oh, Elmarie, thank you. Okay, I'm going on to the John B. Wells show, and you have to watch it live, otherwise you miss it. But it's actually morning for folks in South Africa. John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. Some people know me from there. I haven't been on there in a few months, so they invited me to come on. In fact, I've got to end this broadcast and type up my notes about what I should talk about tonight with them. I got to send it to them. But yeah, John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. That's the program I'll be on. Don't drive. I'm getting my driver's license. Okay. Everything stops in South Africa Christmas. People, yes, well, it's not just there, Conrad. It's everywhere. It's in Europe. People just stop doing things. But we'll still send people over. Open the government. I can't open the government. No, I'm not. So I'm not attacking that lady. She said that initially she said I was wrong because RSC said this. But I told you RSC lies. Not RSC, but Church World Services lie. And someone sent me a screen capture earlier of the Church World Service director moaning and saying it was wrong to bring Afrikaners over while providing a service to them. Who wants to work with a contractor like that? Yeah, there's issues with the internet in South Africa. And that might be part of the reason why you can't get in the server too. What does Indaba Africa do? It's a consulting service, a Mad Max, a consulting service. I offer business services for those interested in investing in Africa. I also offer interpreter services for certain languages. And I also offer, lectures and speaking engagements, all of those things. If you want me to come speak at an event and you want to pay me for it, let me know. What's on my wish list? No more hip pain and ability to exercise and get back down to my normal weight. John B. Wells, not Welsh, John B. Wells. You go to Caravan to Midnight. I'll get you a link for that. Hang on. So Caravan to Midnight. It's on YouTube, so it makes it easy. Although they got a strike a few months ago. Caravan to Midnight YouTube. There you go. I'll click on it. Caravan to Midnight with John B. Wells. Here you go. He is the John B. Wells is the Lexington cigarettes? Back in the day in South Africa. He was the model that did that in South Africa back in the day. And then he was later on Coast to Coast, George Norrie's program. And the guy found it before that. But this is the channel. And so Let me see if they've got me posted for tonight. I don't even know if they have me posted for tonight. So, Arc to Midnight. Yeah, Arc to Midnight. So, let me see. Headlines. No. John B. Wells. His data is all skewed because, is that it? That can't be right. Did he start a new channel? I wonder if he lost his channel because this channel only has 4,800 subscribers and 45 videos. Wow. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense. This has to be... Okay, let me try. Let me see if there's John B. Wells because that doesn't make sense. Oh, here we go. 149,000 subscribers. Okay, here we go. I was going to say 10 videos. What? Oh, it's because he takes them off because he worries about getting strikes. Yeah, okay, here you go. So this is what you want. This is the link you want, guys. This is where it should be tonight. Sorry for that. Yeah, this is the link you want for tonight. That's where it should be tonight. Yeah, and then they take it off after it's over. Yep. I think it'll be on there. Well, I will put it in the groups tonight when I find out where it's at. But yeah, that's, wow. Huh. Anyway, so Caravan to Midnight, John B. Wells. He was a Lexington man. Yeah, he takes them off, Hendo, I know. So I had to find the one that had 149,000 subscribers. The Jack Reacher walk starting in Margrave. That's interesting. Try one of those. Coughed and coughed and coughed. What's that? If I live on a farm, if I leave, I'm driving, so I always do have ID wallet key. That's the 4-pocket. Yep. Bitter Ender wants to be here for Christmas. Okay. Well, no, not 90 days, Art. It depends on where you're at. It depends. If you take residence in a state, some states require you get a license within 30 days. Some require 60 days. So you can't just say it's 90 days. That's you're here as a refugee, and which means you're settling here. You have a permit to live here, which means that you're a resident. If you're a tourist coming over for 90 days, absolutely. It's good for 90 days. Yep. Each state has different rules. Okay. But for coming in the country, generally it's accepted for 90 days for a tourist. Okay, it's time to go, folks. I got to go. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for being here. Be sure to hit the like button. Thanks for the super chat revenue that came in. Appreciate it. I've got a lot to do. I've got a big event tonight I've got to prepare for. Also got to check on an interview with Jacques Borger from the Vilvichas. Okay, snippets. Thank you. Have you tried stem cell treatment? No. Good Lord. I haven't done that. Now, all my subs should recruit 5 additional subs. All my subscribers should find 5 new subscribers. If all my subscribers got 1 person, if every subscriber got 1 person to subscribe to my channel, we'd have 226,000 subscribers. If they all got 5, we'd have over 500,000, almost 600,000. Wouldn't that be something? Alrighty, guys. Antoinette says, for all your guidance, advice, last name must keep me sort of saying I don't know how. Well, you're very welcome. Cool beans. Alrighty. Take care, guys. Be sure to hit the like button. And we'll catch you, if anything breaks, we'll catch you later. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. We get ready for the weekend. I'll probably try to get some steamed crabs. This is the last weekend. The Maryland crabs should be running unless the weather stays good. Then 1 more week. So, all right. But Saturday I can't get them because the Springbok game comes on at 3. It won't be over till 5:30. And I have to drive over there. And I'll be hard-pressed to get my crabs before 6. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.